It will be a hard...
WaveCon 2024 is going to be here before we know it, August 2nd through the 4th. It is Blind Wave University is the theme this time, and we are hosting it at Marietta College. Remember, tickets are limited and on sale now. Head over to blindwave.com/wavecon to buy your tickets today and enroll in Blind Wave University. Class dismissed.
Eric, that's not how it works, and I told you to stop looking at that
Can't get this thing to turn on.
Good. You're lucky. We have a podcast to do. You ready?
Yes. What?
Gonk just told us everyone's here. Look, they're all here. They're getting the
Podcast. What are we going
transmission.
to talk about?
Well, we are going to be talking about a lot of Phantom Menace.
Oh, the Phantom Menace, you say?
Yes,
Star Wars
yes.
Episode 1, you
Star
say?
Wars
May
Episode
19th,
1.
1999, you say?
Yeah, that's
All right.
like almost 25 years ago.
Almost to the dot. Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to be talking a lot about the Phantom Menace. We're just a little shy of the 25th anniversary. And they also had the movie back in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And the book that we covered really went well with that as well, which
It certainly did.
I was happy for.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, a lot of Phantom Menace today.
Mm-hmm.
We have another topic that we're going to hit on first.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly what it is. Eric has
It's a
it.
surprise for Aaron.
So we're going to discuss that for a little bit. And then we'll be having our next book, which I suppose should we announce what the next book is?
I suppose.
All right. Do you know what it is?
Yes, I do. I'm going to read it off my paper.
Good. Do that so you don't say the wrong one or anything.
The Rising Storm by Cavan Scott. The next novel in the High Republic.
The High Republic, which will be a
Yeah.
lot of fun. I'm excited for that. And that will all be on June 20th will be the next Badonkagonk. That way you guys all know. We have it out there beforehand,
Yeah.
so you guys don't miss out on it.
You also might be screaming, like, oh my God, but guys, there's comic books you have to read before you read that book.
Oh.
Like, at least, like, a whole volume and then, like, another volume before
right.
you do that.
So I should read that then?
I suppose.
Okay.
We should probably do that. So those will be coming out before next Badonkagonk too. Yay!
Yay! Comics are fun.
And then we should be not perfect, obviously, but in the mood for some Acolyte at that point.
Acolyte will be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We'll be able to talk about that. It'll be like a High Republic podcast, like next one then,
Absolutely.
which will be a lot of fun.
I hope you guys really enjoy the next comic book reading because, yes, it is High Republic, and yes, we still brought Calvin.
Is that the draw we have
Yes.
now? Oh,
We still
Calvin's
brought
there.
Calvin, who hasn't read any of the High Republic stuff, so we threw him into the deep end, and we can see if that boy can swim. I know the answer is no, he can't. He sinks.
Oh, yeah, that's what he always says
but
anyway. Yeah.
metaphor-wise, I think he can tread some water.
Yeah. Well, good. Have we had a podcast since our comic book readings went on YouTube?
No,
Badonkagonk?
sir. They
No?
came out. No, they weren't out yet.
I don't remember if we did. So if not, if you guys have missed it,
Mm-hmm.
there is there's 2 parts for the Darth Maul Son of Dathomir comic
Yeah.
that we did a read along through, and it was a lot of fun. So if you guys have missed out on that, or if you have experienced the story or not, make sure you check out that video because it was a lot of fun. Hopefully you guys enjoy it, and that's a taste of what we're working towards with some of the High Republic stuff.
I'm very happy that people liked those videos.
Yes,
It was one of
I
those
am
things
too,
where I was
yeah.
like, man, I had a good time, but I hope that translates to, like, fun to watch.
Sure, right? Or like, how terrible is my voice when
Yeah.
I'm doing these voices and
Sure,
stuff too?
right?
Or
Like, we're not professional voice actors or anything. It's just fun to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like there are like it's almost counterintuitive, but there's a couple of times when we're recording where I'm like, man, I need to shut up, like I'm ruining their takes. But I'm also like, but that's part of the live experience is you can't help but say something right now,
Yeah.
you know?
There's been a time or two, especially where I'm like, "Oh my gosh, look at this!"
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Oh shoot, sorry, Eric.
Yeah.
You do your line again, just in case."
Well, I'm glad that we started with Son of Dathomir because those were characters we were extremely familiar with.
Sure.
And then getting back into the High Republic, it's a challenge to get these characters that we know, but
Yeah.
someone like Calvin doesn't know as well.
Sure.
To find a voice that
Well,
makes
yeah.
them feel real.
Yeah, and we don't have voices for most of them anyway, so
Uh-huh.
it's like, okay, well, what should
Yeah.
this Jedi Master sound
Yes.
like, or what should these twins sound like, or
I,
whatever the case is.
All I'll say is I look forward for people to hear what a certain hut will sound like.
Ah,
That's my favorite part.
the hut was a good one.
Yep.
Yeah, sure. Better than the archivist.
No, that was great.
So. All right. Well, we should get into this podcast now that
Yes.
we've kind of caught up on a few of the Wave Squadron things that have been coming out. Acolyte will be a reaction series we have up here on the channel too, so make sure you guys are subscribed and
Yep.
following for that
Okay.
on Wave Squadron. But
Well, we're talking about the High Republic. We're talking about the Phantom Menace on the complete other side of Star Wars. We're going to go before we get into that.
yes.
But Aaron, did you know that there's a place called Disneyland?
No.
And there they have a thing called Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
And they sell some great products there, including lightsabers that you can get a kyber crystal with, to power your lightsaber.
cool.
And that kyber crystal can also go into a Jedi holocron. Did you know that? You can keep your crystal in a holocron.
Oh,
And it'll
so-
say cool things.
Okay. No, I didn't know this.
It does happen.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, there's a
That-
new cool thing that the Ray crystal gets you. And it's from what people are saying. I have all the lines here that we can go over. This is Rey after Episode 9 speaking to a audience.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the audience is, but it's about her mindset after the movies.
Oh.
So
okay.
now that we're going into a period that's going to be the New Jedi Order, Daisy Ridley-led movie, I thought it might be cool to just kind of read over some of these lines and pick your brain about what they were.
So this is released as like a toy aspect that goes into Holocron, and you only get this from Disney, like, amusement park?
Yep.
Okay.
Pretty much.
How do you, before we get into it as a question, how do you feel about that as, like, do you think this will have importance into, like, lore things? Because I know one thing you didn't like about Episode 9 was
my old man problem.
Palpatine had a big radio broadcast to the galaxy, but, like, that was done in Fortnite.
Uh-huh.
So, like, it's not in the movie or in, like, is this something you think, like, this should be in the movie?
I have an opinion, but I might save it until you have some of the context, too.
Okay.
Okay? Because I have an answer to your question.
Let's see what they say.
Yeah. Okay, so here's some. I'm just going to go through the lines. I came from something evil.
Okay.
Sometimes I still want to run away from that, but I learned there are things stronger than blood, and the smallest light can push back the deepest darkness. Okay. So acknowledging her origin.
Yeah.
Right?
Who her parents were and who her grandfather was. And
yeah. Maybe you've heard, I'm all the Jedi.
I have heard that, yes.
You have heard. When I met Luke Skywalker, I offered him his lightsaber and he tossed it away. But the Force doesn't make things easy, so you keep trying. That's all you can do. Luke Skywalker was my master. So was his sister, Leia. And her son, Ben, gave his life for me. I took the Skywalker name to honor them and their legacy. I've studied the sacred text of the Jedi. Do you know what the most important pages are? It's the blank ones left at the end, because the ancient teachers knew those lessons weren't finished and they never could be. Ben was right about letting go of the past, but not about killing it. My task is to make something new, not by killing the past, but by building on all that's good in it. I grew up in the desert, and yet every night I dreamed of an island. A tiny dot in an endless sea. I saw it so clearly, but I never imagined it might be real and waiting for me. I'm Rey Skywalker. I mean, there's a lot here. I'm going through. I think I'm almost done with it, actually.
Okay.
Let me keep going. I didn't realize it was quite so much, but the Force is so much bigger than any creed, any philosophy, anything that can fit in a bunch of books. Master Skywalker taught me that in his final lesson on Octo 2. I knew right away I'd never forget it, that I'd never be the same. The early Jedi sought to bind the galaxy's wounds. They looked at what was broken and saw how to fix it. When I read that, I thought, well, I'm good at that already. And she is good at fixing things. Let's break down. Okay, so that's pretty much all of the main quotes from that. I like the part talking about why she took the name Skywalker.
Sure.
You can now, to your point, you're like, well, shouldn't this stuff have been in a movie for me to appreciate it? You know, like I feel like everything that was said here is clearly in the movie. You know, like in terms of like the themes, like what's behind the thoughts and stuff like that. But I just thought it was really interesting to put that in Galaxy's Edge, a voice coming from beyond the movies, and maybe will be in her forethought in her mind in building the New Jedi Order stuff. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's more of like the mindset. You're getting, it's like the book version of Rise of Skywalker, right? Where you get to hear their thoughts rather than just watch them do stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it Daisy that does the lines?
I think it's a sound alike. I don't think it's actually Daisy that does it. Yeah, but I mean that's the true of a decent.
It happens a
stuff
lot.
There.
I
Yeah.
mean, Woody from Toy Story is usually voiced by Tom Hanks' brother.
His brother, yeah.
Unless it's like the actual movies, but
Yeah.
any toys and stuff usually his brother. So.
Sure. Yeah,
All right.
but I mean,
that's interesting that they did that though.
yeah, I saw a little bit of chatter of some people being like, to your point, like, well, why was it in the movie? I would have liked the Rey Skywalker part at the end if that's what it was, you know. And you want to be like, well, subtext is a thing. You don't want to hold everybody's hand to arrive at a thing that you want them to arrive at. You want them to have a certain level of open interpretation, but I also don't really know how else you think of it that way.
Yeah, I know people were upset at the Skywalker name kind of being taken there, but I
Yeah.
also don't know exactly why
Sure.
or what their thoughts of it were.
Yeah.
I mean, so much of Star Wars is found family or adoption, or you know what I mean, like even Anakin not having a father and kind of finding a father in Qui-Gon, or going to Padme, having the birth of her kids, and then they both go and are taken in by other families that just take them in as their own. Grogu being taken by the Mandalorian. Like, there's lots of times where it's like, the family we have isn't necessarily the blood family we have, right? So here, Rey is like, I always took it as like, it's not she should feel that she's not haunted by her past being from Palpatine. She's a Skywalker. Like her masters before them, kind of thing.
And it's also it's a choice. It's her finally being able to define herself. Before, she was no one, and then she was the most evil person in the galaxy, and now she gets to choose to be part of this legacy that brought her in.
Yeah,
and
and honor like these people who cared about.
Yeah, I have no problem with that in the movie. My only problem with that scene is that it's just Star Wars is such a visual thing, and I just think ending on Tatooine on the Twin Suns is a little lazy because it's already the ending of Episode 3. It's already a pivotal part in Episode 4. It kind of was evoked at the end of Last Jedi already with Luke dying and seeing the Twin Suns on Ahch-To. So I just felt like as a final image for the 9th movie, it wasn't the most inspired. My only thing.
I get what you mean. I do think that there's nice symbolism in the bearing of the sabers and kind of like where it all started. Yeah. Like it's not Leia's home, but Leia's home's also gone. So it's now they both can rest at Luke's home. Yeah. Which is where Episode 4 all started, of sending us to Tatooine and try to get Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah. So, but no, I mean, maybe there's some other options. There's a few things in Rise of Skywalker that I would change. We talked about that a little bit last time.
We did, yeah.
Which was a lot of fun. You can check that out if you guys want to as well.
Anyway, I saw some of those Lines of Dog were cool, and it just, again, makes me excited. I do like Rey. She has looked into those Jedi texts. And I love that thing about like the most important part of the pages that are empty. That are left.
Right.
Yeah,
page turners, they were not.
To be fair, I mean that's the end of Return of the King. When the last pages are for you, Sam. Like, but still, good stuff.
All right. Well, that's Rey from Galaxy's Edge. Then.
Yeah. That's on the other fringe. Now we got to go all the way back past the other side of the sequel trilogy, past the original trilogy, past the prequels.
Yeah, to where this book starts.
Queen's
Peril, which is a prequel to the other Queen Amidala book that we read a few months back.
And just like one of my favorite Star Wars Legends book, Darth Plagueis, you think that, like, okay, so this will end when the Phantom Menace starts. And then it doesn't. And it keeps going.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why is Plagueis is still alive? And I'm seeing scenes from the Phantom Menace.
Yeah. I've never read Darth Plagueis. Yeah. So I've heard about that and how it changes that. For me, this one really fit in well and changed some perspectives, I think, for the Phantom Menace as well. But
all right, well,
I really enjoyed this one because I think probably more than the last one. I think the last one had a lot of focus on Padme and also on Sabe.
Yes, okay.
Right?
When you said last one, I was thinking of Leia, but I understand what you mean.
Sure, the last Queen's book. And that one, like, it was taking place after Episode 1, before Episode 2. There was a story of Padme wanting to free the slaves and feeling like she could do more and sending Sabe to go work on that and stuff. And I like that, but this one, I think, made me like the Handmaidens more. Yeah. Where that one was maybe more Padme that I got
it
story
was a little
with
more
and
Padme.
some Sabe.
I also found it to be a little less focused. This one felt more focused, which is why I enjoyed it more, and it had like an ending.
Oh,
the last one didn't have an ending for me. This one not only had an ending, it had 2 movies endings.
Sure, yeah, it did. But yeah, I'll do what I did last time. I tried to take notes as I went through the book itself. So we'll start earlier on with like there's a prologue and an epilogue in this, but also besides the main chapters, there's also a few smaller chapters that were like cunning, bravery. I think strength was one. Yeah. and they were really interesting because they all kind of focused on the discovery / recruitment of the different handmaidens.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of cool too.
Yeah, me too. I listened to it as an audiobook, so I didn't get the. I don't think I got like those like chapter names that you were just listening.
Yeah, so like
I don't remember the chapter names, but that's
they
cool.
were like blended in with the chapters too a little bit,
Yeah.
and I lost them in the beginning. But yeah, they're listed in there if you like hit the chapter button. And
Though
look at
it
them.
did catch me off guard for once. I'm like, all right, this is cool. Let's get into it. And then like someone happened, I'm like, oh, it's a flashback.
Wait,
okay.
when am I?
I understand. Now. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm confused.
Yeah, because they were just various times throughout.
Yeah.
And no, I really enjoyed this.
Yeah,
a
the
lot.
prologues of the handmaidens.
Yeah. So the beginning, we start off when we get to the point of really it's focusing on Padme. Like we're at the beginning of her, and she's running for being queen, which is an elected position.
Yeah.
And it's kind of talking about her and her waiting, and then Panaka comes in and says, "Your Highness," and she's taken that role.
I'm curious, like once you realize, like, okay, so this is the beginning of her being queen, like how far off did you think Phantom Menace was?
I was not really
about it
sure
at all?
because I was trying to think about like how far was she a queen for a year?
So
was she a queen for 6 months?
As soon as it started, I realized, oh, this is what we're getting to. I immediately heard Palpatine's line, "The newly elected Queen of Naboo," to speak on our behalf. You know,
Yeah.
like I'm like, she's newly elected. What does he mean? Like
how new is newly elected?
yeah, like I know that like they amended the Constitution that she could serve more terms, and that's Episode 2 stuff, sure. But like this probably means like Phantom Menace happens like soon. So I remember going like, okay, so the book will end with like, and then the Trade Federation showed up, and, you know, but nope.
And yeah, right. And
I very quickly realized, I'm like, oh no, we're gonna be going into this. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, I mean the first one just kind of sets stuff up.
Yeah.
We do get a moment with Senator Palpatine. He calls Panaka, and that's one
does.
thing in this book too that we know Panaka becomes a Moff.
he does,
Right?
He is loyal to Palpatine.
This
and is
either
rewarded
sets
for it.
up that he has that loyalty,
Yeah.
that there's a friendship, or that Palpatine early on was like, I'm going to really try to find someone that I can eventually move up to Moff. And Panaka, throughout the book, has a tendency of, and I think we talked about before, because he wanted like a special weapons project on Naboo at one point, and the Queen said no. And in this book, he usually seems to favor the more protection / defense is better.
Definitely.
Even to the point where there's a line whenever Queen Amidala first gets queened, and he brings in, they all meet like the soldiers or the guard.
Sure.
And there's a line where he's like, he wanted more, but he got turned down.
Yeah.
Where like he wanted more defense.
Yeah.
And he always has all these ideas of things he wants to do and protection and stuff. And it's like, but why do we need this? This has never been a need that we've ever had. Now, given he was right for a lot of things, and it helped them against the Trade Federation in various ways. But he was the one who was always pushing more weapons and stuff too, which maybe was why Palpatine was like, let me befriend him. And, you know, he favors security. So the idea of what the Empire can do, he may favor, and we'll be friends and loyal, and he'll be my Moff, you know? I don't know if it was set up that early or what.
The benefits of like allying and having partnerships with people with opposed opinions. Like, you know, do we prioritize peace or do we prioritize security? Those type of things, you know, like the answer is, I don't know. Hopefully you have a little bit of both, but the only way to really do that is you have one person pushing this way, one person pushing this way, and then you should arrive somewhere in the middle. That's where like politics is supposed to be like that, and then you come together amicably and try to solve your issues, you know. But people get radicalized, fascist empires rise, and Panaka gets sucked into that machine, despite us knowing that he's a good person.
Yeah. Which the book, I think, does a good job of. Like, it shows like he cares, he wants to help, he cares about the people of Naboo. Yeah. But he goes harder one way than others do.
Yeah, agreed.
We also meet Palpatine early on, besides, I think, just talking to Panaka, that he was working on a tax bill.
Yeah.
And I kind of enjoyed the idea, because, like, you know, a lot of people talk about Episode 1 and Episode 2 and the politics and stuff, and it not being that much fun. But in this one, you're seeing Palpatine spend time, like, he's been slowly drafting tax bills. He's trying to make sure the stuff he wants is in them, while also voting for or against in the positive for the galaxy, when really he wants the negative for the galaxy, but he has to appear to be on the positive side of things.
Sure.
So it was kind of fun to watch during this book, like, all right, well, I'm going to vote, against this, but I need to make sure it has this stuff in there that I want to seed already. And it's him trying to like manipulate the Trade Federation and everyone in the galaxy, really. And I just was like,
You're right.
this is kind of cool to see like what does Senator Palpatine do? Mm-hmm. It's like, well, he's just prepping and doing everything he can.
It really is like his test or his like version 1 of the Clone Wars in terms of subterfuge.
Yeah.
Because the Trade Federation serve Lord Sidious. And they're partnered with Lord Sidious, who is trying to get them better payoffs for taxes for some reason. They don't know why. Mm-hmm. And then you have Palpatine, whose planet is the target of the taxation issue.
Yeah.
So he has to play both sides and have both opponents trust him at the same time. And that's what he does for the galaxy large. But this is like the proving ground.
There's just two sides in a smaller scale. And it works so much that you get to the one point where like Newt Gunray is talking to Darth Sidious, and he's like, "That senator from Naboo."
Yeah, I love that part because it made me think like, obviously, I never thought that he did, but I never really thought about it at all. Like, they have no idea who Palpatine would be in regards to Sidious's character.
No, and in that it really seals like, oh man, they don't even think about that, which makes sense.
Yeah,
because this guy, they're literally working, like you said, for opposite ends of the same kind of ideas. So.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we most of the beginning really just set up a lot of what the Queen has to do. We got to meet Bibble.
C.O. Bibble.
Yeah, and they talked about how he had a background in what was it, like argumentative philosophy or something like that. And like they're like, that's why he's always so grand.
Yeah, performative.
Performative. Yeah, and I was like, well, that's interesting. Okay. But we start to get introduced. I think Strength was the first one where Panaka goes and meets Desabin.
Yes.
And talks to her. And her story in this, I don't know if I remember it so much from the last Amidala book, but really focused on how she is the best at not being the best. Like, she's always second. And it's like she's really good, but she's just never there.
Sure.
So, like, here's in the Queen's shadow, basically, right? Like, she has to play the Queen when the Queen can't play the Queen.
Yeah.
And I just thought, like, the conversation he has with her and the story that they kind of play out in this book especially made me understand her better, I think, in that sense. But also, she came to kind of be like, this is good, though, because also I don't want to be Queen.
Yeah.
Like, there's just elements of that in all of it.
I know that I'm reading into this because while reading this book, I've also been going through with my wife the background of a band called
Baby Monster?
Baby Monster. I would want to say Blackpink. It's not Blackpink. It's Baby Monster.
Yeah.
And like how they put together that female troupe, right? And one of the things that I thought was funny / a little sad to think about in terms of the pressure these people are put under is like they're being asked to, like, just for dancing, like they're asked to be perfectly in sync, not stand out too much, but also have that it factor, which those three things I feel like put together are contradiction. Like a synchronize is like to conform with the others.
Yeah.
To stand out is to, like,
be different than the others.
To be different. So, like, whenever I was seeing the handmaidens come together, there was a little part of me that's going like, this is like Baby Monster.
Baby Monster, yeah. No, I get you there.
Yeah.
No, there is. I mean, there's definitely a lot of elements of them kind of having to hide themselves because that's what the handmaidens supposed to do. There's, and we can get into more of that here in a second.
Yeah.
There's an element that I liked whenever they're talking, which is actually Panaka introduced the idea of what he was wanting to do. There's always a handmaiden. I thought it was cool that Padme was like, well, why is there just two of us? He's like, shouldn't there be more than that? And I was like, okay, so it was Amidala's idea. Like, Panaka didn't even have this idea to have more than that.
Yeah.
But then when Panaka introduces Desabin and they start talking about it, they start kind of crafting like, well, one, we should be loyal to you, not to Panaka. Two, like, we should all be like, we can all be like the bodyguards. We can all train with all these different aspects. Yep. And as they kept talking about it more and more, I really liked the idea of how they came to figure out their names. I liked how they all kind of took different categories of what they'd be in charge of.
Agreed. Yeah.
And then tried to plan that around of like, okay, well, we'll make Padme one of the handmaidens, and she's a page. That way, she just archives everything the queen does. That way, it makes sense that she's not there, and they just try to like make connections and plan this all out.
It's so honestly, like I feel like I like the handmaiden stuff so much it like makes the prequels a little worse because it's not there. Does that make sense at all? I'm just like, man, these handmaidens are so cool the way that they can work together, and you don't really get to see a whole lot of that.
No.
Other than the stuff that you're like, like the last book had the whole, we are brave, Your Highness, like as a way of like speaking in code when you're in charge or whatever.
Sure, because Padme is the one who says that.
Exactly, yeah. So I like that stuff, but there's part of me that when I'm reading this, I'm like, man, I wish we kind of got more of these personalities and characters in this thought process in the movie, but you understand why that doesn't happen.
Well, yeah. I also don't think that it was of interest to people as much then, right? Like Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Anakin, like that's what we're focusing on.
I know, I'm weird like that. I know a lot of people kind of like prioritize or like put in terms of importance like what they think about when they come to Star Wars. Like I'm more of like once it's in my head, it's just part of Star Wars now.
Yeah. No, I think this year really adds to that though. Like once you start to understand these, like as they go through, like we have I have Sasha, Rabe, Sabe, Yane, Erte, and Padme. Yeah. And they took things of like there was a lowly page for Sasha, wardrobe mistress, everyone's assistant. That way Sabe could be anywhere or nowhere, and it wouldn't be a problem. But like communications, all these things that they took. But then there's other stuff like Rabe. We should go through how they met, I suppose, a little bit. Yeah. But Rabe was brought in because she was a forger and like a thief, like a criminal.
Yeah, not the greatest of backgrounds.
No, and it was different than the other ones, but I liked it because as her character progressed, like she was a great artist. Yeah. So she forged paintings and then would sell them to not locals as the real thing. And with that, she also knew some other skills. And at one point, all the handmaidens are talking and discussing, like, what should we do? And it's like, maybe rather than just trying to look like each other physically, we should try to, like, be similar, like share our hearts and our minds and stuff with each other. Like, read a book all together, stuff like that. And Rabe's like, I'll teach you how to lockpick. And they're like, what? And just elements like that kind of, I think, feed into how Padme learns to do a lot of things. She, like, you have all these handmaidens. She's like 14 in this book. So this group that she's with is like all kind of crafting and teaching her. Like they say like, oh, well, I was brought in so that you could learn deceit. Like there's things of like lying or communicating, or Sabe talks to her about breath control. And they craft this whole idea of like, well, if we're both playing the queen, you can't you might react to something different than I would react. Yeah. But what we could both control is not reacting. Yeah. So when you
try to like don't try to match each other, try to create a new thing to as a goal in between them.
Yeah. So like that's the idea they craft up with this. Yeah. So the queen talks kind of monotone, doesn't have a lot of inflection in her voice, her face is fairly flat. Yeah. And then in episode 1, like I mean, you could say like, oh, that's sometimes like the complaint that people have is like, well, the queen was kind of just very stoic, but that's what she's doing. That's the point. Because there's different people playing her, and it's easier to have no reaction and be stoic than to all try to have the same reaction.
Sure, yeah. I feel like unless you're being honest and you got to the part where Natalie Portman's like, hey, I'm actually the queen, and I'm always am, and sometimes there's an imposter. Unless you knew that, then that complaint doesn't work, right? Yeah. Because they got you. You thought it was, oh,
you're like, oh, man, you didn't know what you're doing. No. And I think all of these handmaidens help to craft Padme to become who she is we see in the Clone Wars. And, like she lockpicks her handcuffs in Attack of the Clones when she's like handcuffed to the little pillar. Sure. And I'm like, maybe she learned that from Rabe. Yeah. Like,
another situation where that kind of works another part of geekdom, if anybody's interested. If you remember in the Two Towers when Gandalf appears, and when he first shows up, you think he's Saruman. And when they have him do the lines, they have Christopher Lee try to sound like Ian McKellen, and they have Ian McKellen try to sound like do impression of Christopher Lee. You do an impression, and they met in the middle. And even when he's on screen speaking, you can watch reactions now. People are like, "Who is this?" is that Saruman? It's like, you can see him McKellen right now, but you can't hear him, you know? And even though it's his voice, I always liked that. And that kind of reminds me of, they like formed a goal in the middle and met there, and both of them didn't have to walk as far.
Yeah.
And now all the handmaidens can do it.
It's like all 6 of these have made one queen is kind of what happens. And that's kind of what their goal is that they go for. And I think it's really...
Yeah.
It was something I wasn't expecting to have in this book, and it makes the most sense, I think, because she is so young, and these are the people who are going to be surrounding her. Yeah. But they were also clever. And I love that Padme's like... Even though Panaka started this, they're all on board and with me, and we kind of both get what we want.
Yeah.
Like, Panaka's going to get the security he wants with these bodyguards that are handmaidens, and I'm going to get them to work with me and be able to, grow with the queen, what my goal as the queen is.
Sure, yeah.
So, I like that a lot, though. We also flash through, during a lot of this time, we get a few jumps over with Palpatine. Sometimes it's just him calling, giving congratulations. But there's also in the earlier part of the book talking about the droid factory starting up on Geonosis.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really cool
every once in a while
too.
the book will kind of just be like, "Hey, do you know where you are right now?" I'll be like, "Not really," and they'll be like, "Let me tell you, the droids have started up, or like they're
here's the foundry igniting.
They've turned the wheel towards Naboo."
Yeah,
that type of thing.
Well, in the same chapter 2, we jump over and it's like the apprentice. And I'm like, oh, the apprentice, and like it goes through and it's like he hates politics.
Yeah,
and it's Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, and it was interesting. Qui-Gon has a feeling, so Obi-Wan has to read bills from the politicians because he's like, something seems weird here. But let's look into this.
Yeah,
and
Qui-Gon's he's seeing the signs and he's staying in the moment, and he's like, something's going on. It's an election year,
Yeah, I don't know. It was interesting to see that. But their conversation was interesting, too. There was the talk about Jedi being similar to politicians because they both try to control.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, politicians try to control others while Jedi try to control oneself. And like the conversation was really fun, or at least interesting to see their apprentice-master dynamic, which we saw in Master and Apprentice.
We did. It was great.
But the thing I like the most, and like it's because I hadn't thought about it or where it's going to be or when it takes place, really. But there was a line when they were like, hopefully we don't start any wars with something or another. And then Qui-Gon's like, or we don't kickstart any romances with the local nobility. And I was like, oh my gosh, Qui-Gon.
You can hear him like, he's like ribbing. Obi-Wan was like, man, come on.
And I was like,
I miss her still.
And it was funny because I was like, man, I didn't think about when that took place. Like, I guess I always thought of it being after episode 1, but it probably makes most sense for it to be before episode 1.
So you kind of always thought like Anakin would. Anakin didn't know.
Yeah, because Anakin didn't know, and I'm like, it makes the most sense. Since he because he finds out about it in the Clone Wars, I think, right? Yeah. That's at least how I remember it.
I mean, but, I mean, so you're thinking like within the 10 years that he's Anakin's master.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought maybe something kind of there was happening, but
I guess I always assume it was when he was apprentice to Qui-Gon.
It makes the most sense.
Whenever
and maybe
he gets with Duchess Satine.
And maybe there was a moment, but I forgot about it too. But no, I thought it was a fun little jabbing from Qui-Gon about that. So, especially being in a moment when he's talked to Anakin and he's been like, or maybe it was Duchess when he talked to her, but it's like, if you just said the word, I would have left the order, And
it's one of those things too, where like in the filling in the gaps of something, like it's just there's I believe there is a line in those Clone Wars episodes about him being separated from his master while he was with Duchess Satine, but I mean, to your point, like when I was a kid, I was just like, her name is Padme Amidala, like obviously. No, it's not.
No,
that's not it at all.
No, it's
it's Padme Naberi.
Yeah, Naberi. Yeah, that sounds right.
And Amidala is her queen name. She takes a stage name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, makes sense because I like the idea of, like, you're the queen.
Yeah.
Basically, you elected, like, a face and what they say they're for, but you have no idea who this person really is.
Yeah.
And it's interesting and different. But after you leave, well, who was queen, we don't know. Though I think in this situation, because of the outcome of what happens in the Trade Federation, like, just everyone finds out, know? Like, that's just kind of what happens.
Yep.
But yeah, I enjoyed the Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon moment that they had. What else was there? We go through a lot, kind of crafting the look the makeup, the headdresses and stuff too.
Of the queen.
They change up a lot of that, which was like, is this to look like it, or is it supposed to be it?
Sure.
It's like, we can just make it look like it and make it a lot lighter, and like, let's do that. So I was like, okay, good.
Yeah, I think when I first watched episode 1, I never really appreciated or thought about the idea that, like, at least when you're a kid and you see Padme's, first appearance, I'm always kind of like, what the hell is she wearing? This is crazy. But that must be her and her personality and stuff. But actually, it's a role that she's filling. It's not her. It's just it's easier to disappear into the role if it's, it's the same reason why, like, if you go to church, you just automatically, like, assume the guy in the wizard robes is in charge,
Sure.
It's like, well, the lady with the big headdress looks like she's in charge.
Yeah. There we go.
Like, well, I don't get to wear robes when I go to church, I probably would go more if I did.
Yeah. So no, I guess you're right. Like, I didn't really think about that. I just was like, that's what the queen looks like.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. Whenever I was younger, whenever I watched it originally, but I did enjoy watching or listening, reading the elements of how do we change? Can we trick? Who can we trick? The first time they do it, like going to a library and they send Padme ahead, and then they bring the queen through, and Panaka shows up. And kind of just like, wait a second here.
Yeah.
And then they go in the library and they do a quick change.
Yeah.
And it's just like, we're trying to get practice in. I understand, though, there was frustrations at one point being like, why are we even doing this? What's the point of doing this? Like, we could be doing so many other things, but instead we're trying to trick who? Who are we trying to trick?
Yeah, right.
And I was like, I get that. But thank goodness they do this.
Thank goodness. Them doing all this work, it makes you appreciate just how good that trick was, even though it's something that we take for granted now that we have been with that reveal for 20 years or 25 years. But I could save it, I guess, for later. But there was a really fun story that I saw where Natalie Portman's family, when she was hired on, were like, okay, so she's going to have like an imposter person that's sometimes queen, which was Keira Knightley ended up playing Sabe. She was like 12 or 13 at that time. When they put the makeup on, like, it talked about Natalie Portman's mother, like, went up to Keira Knightley thinking she was Natalie Portman, started speaking to her, and they just kind of went with it. They had no idea.
Really?
Yep. So
that's fine.
Life imitates art.
Yeah.
But the work that the characters are going in here, it does work, even on your family.
And even just looking like it's like the all white face, and it has like some little spots and stuff on it too. And you think, like, your mind thinks like, okay, well, they must have a freckle. But, like, it's just all makeup, Sure. So when you take it off and you see, like, here's Padme without the makeup and there's no dot here, it's like, well, the queen has a dot. Like, you just kind of, like, naturally start thinking about that.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's just, it can definitely be tricky.
But, no, I mean, even around the movie set, like, it was one of those things where, like, not everybody knew exactly what was going on. Sometimes when you're a movie set, you don't know exactly what's being filmed.
Sure.
But there was also a lot of kind of, like, misinformation kind of put out around this time too of Lucasfilm and not wanting to really put that there was another actress playing the queen, so there are times where, like, they confirmed that Natalie Portman was the queen in this, but fans will, like, get the things and be like, I don't think it is. There's whole websites devoted to finding out
who was the queen,
when it's Padme, when it's Sabe.
That's fun.
And that's so much fun.
Yeah.
It's such an extra part of the story, but the building blocks are being laid in this book. And we're seeing how they're able to pull something like that off in the story, as well as the actual making of.
One of my favorite things, talking about building blocks, I guess, that this book does, and this goes over the course of a few chapters, but they have they have this grain issue, and they decide that their first harvest of the grain, they're going to basically just fertilize and turn into fertilizer for the next harvest of grain.
Yep.
So they kind of lose all that grain in preparation to have more grain later. The story they had with that, and also trying to find trades to get the grain and do all this, like, so that their people had food and they could make sure they had a surplus and everything. Thinking of the movie and the way this book sets up, by the time the invasion happens and the blockade has happened, it makes so much more sense of how urgent elements of Phantom Menace are, because you find out that they have 1 week of food in stores publicly for their planet. And at a point during the book, they said that Padme leaving Naboo to go to Coruscant to get back, if everything goes right, would take at least 3 days. So, like, being on Tatooine and the urgency of, like, I'm going to get the Gungans and go back and fight a war, like, all those things that, like, that seems a little much, doesn't it? Like, I know they're blockaded, but is it that bad? But, like, this one puts it in a different perspective, I felt like, where it's like, it is that bad. Like, if the Trade Federation doesn't give them any food or anything, they've got, like, a week, maybe 2. Like, they were like, I don't know what's in the market. I don't know what farmers have in their surplus, but we have, like, a week of food. And
we still don't really know the details of what all happened in those camps either.
Not entirely, no.
But it sounds like not great things were happening to the people in the bill.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason that they changed their constitution to keep Padme on. You know?
Right. So the element of their food shortage was probably one of my favorite things in this book, just because when I was thinking about it, like being on Tatooine, I'm like, man, the things Padme must be worried about, the handmaidens, Panaka, like they must be aware they were working on this grain issue before.
Yeah.
This is what's in their mind. I have to hurry. I have to get back. My people are dying. So,
yeah.
When we get into chapter 9, I believe was the first time we had the mention of another apprentice. Which, like, this book jumped into a few aspects that I didn't expect to have. I didn't expect to have Darth Sidious moments. I didn't expect to have Qui-Gon Obi-Wan moments. I wasn't expecting to go into the Phantom Menace, really. But then you have, like, a moment with Maul.
Darth Maul, yeah, no.
He's, like, putting together his lightsaber.
Yeah, he is.
He's thinking about, like, they said, like, all the parts of the saber had been stolen.
Yeah.
He contemplates on the witches and what it was like on Dathomir and stuff.
He does. And then he also, like, he has this really interesting part where he, like, almost, like, blames the Jedi for the things that's happened to him. Like, why'd they just ignore me? Did they not sense me? I thought they're powerful. And because they didn't come get me, look where I ended up. And thus, I will kill them.
Yeah, it felt like at first it was a thing of, like, am I not strong enough that they don't find me to be a threat? But then it turned into a thing where it's like, wait, I'm force sensitive and they didn't come get me, and this is their fault that I'm where I'm at now.
Sure.
And he, like, just seething and talking about the fear and everything.
We had kind of an exaggerated version of that in the Old Republic cinematic trailer, one of the newest ones, right? When they had, like, the 2 young siblings, one was taken by the Jedi and the other wasn't.
Yeah.
And the Sith, like, came and got them later.
There was, like, a light and dark brother kind of thing.
So a little bit, like, more enhanced version of that resentment Maul felt.
Yeah. But, no, I thought that was really cool. Just getting a chance to see Maul. And there's a few more Mauls in the future.
Yeah.
But actually, chapter 9, my main notes, and I don't remember what all was in it exactly, but my main notes were for Maul. There was the Palpatine and Valorum conversation.
Yeah.
Which is not a thing that we usually get a lot of.
No, we don't.
I don't think we've really seen those two interact, like, at all, really.
Yeah.
But there was, like, a conversation talking about, I imagine seeding the idea of a fair moderator, separate, non-biased.
Yeah.
You know, like, you mean the Jedi? It's like, oh, that's a good idea. You know, like, one of those, like, let it not be my idea, but let me seed that in there. Which was, I mean, now you get Jedi, I assume, the Chancellor's, what were they called? Ambassadors?
Yeah.
Like, the part of me thought, like,
no ambassadors.
That's why ambassadors are going in their Jedi is, like, he started to seed this here a little bit of needing some unbiased people to go somewhere or do something. And this is before the blockade even started, you know?
You know, and that's also a thing I don't give Palpatine enough credit. Because oftentimes, like, when we see... This has happened before. Like, we'll see someone playing chess with themselves, and you want to go, oh, Palpatine. That's why he's the one in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
But it's not really. Palpatine is playing... Like, people are still playing chess.
Yeah.
He has to get them to move where he wants them to move.
He's playing those people to move the pieces.
He's not moving the pieces. He has to convince you to move the pieces where he wants, which is so much harder.
Yeah. No, it's crazy the things he does. And he does so much in this and so much in the future.
He would be so good at, like... He must be, like, an amazing improv artist. Like, I bet you he can go on Whose Lines Anyway and, like, carry himself.
You think?
I don't think he'd humiliate himself. I think his mind has to work at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
It must.
To feel like he has fully formed ideas that he just thought of.
Yeah.
And then he can commit to
be able to just
ideas.
run it on the dot there, you know? In the same chapter, we had Shmi Skywalker moment, which discussed in episode 1 we have him talking about previously being in a pod race and having crashed, and that was the I saved the pod mostly. Like we had that kind of moment, right? That he did, this is the crash that Anakin has, and it's from the perspective of Shmi, and I thought it was interesting that we jumped over there and saw a little bit of like what the mother is thinking and worried about, but like it kills me every time you do those races, but she knows he enjoys it, and he's like the most free when he does this, and being a slave, like what else does he have except for this moment when he can be super free and just fly, So I really like that.
Me too.
Even Anakin, he had a line where he was like, don't worry, Mom, I'll be with you forever, or something like that. And I was like, oh, man.
I know.
And the kids, they always think that, but, things happen. I'm
bummed out now.
Yeah, I know. Well, and the last thing I have in that chapter that was, this chapter was full of so much stuff. None of it was really Padme-oriented. We have a Yoda and Mace Windu moment.
We do.
Where Mace sits down to talk with Yoda a little bit, and Yoda talks about how he senses nothing, which means he senses something. And Mace Windu's like, but nothing is nothing. And I just like Yoda being like, so certain are you? And it was one of those things where it's really that. I took it as like the darkness clouding, right? Is that how you took it?
Yeah, definitely. It's the shroud of the dark side that's falling. It's being set up at this point. It falls during the Clone Wars, but yeah, that's the whole point. The Jedi, they can't be suspicious at all. They have to, in fact, feel nothing happening. When Qui-Gon says, it's like, I met a Shadow Warrior. He had a red blade that attacked me on Tatooine. Pretty sure he's a Sith Lord. Like, the Jedi have to be like, there's no way that's possible. You must be mistaken, or else we would have sensed it. There's no difference there. Like, it's a true dichotomy, in their eyes.
Yeah.
So, in sensing nothing, at least Yoda is kind of like, that's weird. I should sense something. So sensing nothing is a clue.
Yeah. And like he's like, I'm not sure what it is, but there's something going on. Yeah. And Mace Windu's just kind of like, I'm sure you'll get it.
It's the Force version of like, a little too quiet.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
The next little bit really went over more of the Queen wanting to convince people of trading. I liked her idea of like, I don't want to just trade among. She had issues with the last queen, who was a very Naboo only, Naboo first kind of idea. Yeah. And then she's like, no, I want to kind of bring together our sector.
Yeah, the local systems. Yeah,
which I think like she was the only queen of. Or maybe not queen of the sector, but
she's the only queen in the sector
in that area
in terms of like royalty. Yeah,
I don't know if that also means that like, does that mean that the only senator is? Do they all have Senate seats too, or does only Palpatine have a Senate seat in that area?
I believe the answer is that Palpatine is the senator, and the others have representatives. But I might be very wrong.
And he represents like those groupings, maybe.
Like Jar Jar is representative to the senator of Naboo. For the Gungans,
right? Yeah.
But I'm not really sure. I might be incorrect about that, but I'm pretty sure that Palpatine would be their senator as well.
But she was trying to bring them together, try to get some trade, try to get some more conversations happening. All of this was really setting up more handmaiden shenanigans a little bit. We got to have a club party.
Yep, we got the club party. It was like a concert.
Yeah, it was like a concert, I guess. And
I like that part. It was like one of the only times we got to feel like the characters were acting their age.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, I'm going to sneak out, and I'm going to go to his party, and they're meeting, Sabe's meeting Harley, which was, I guess, like a love interest that they had. And
that couldn't tell the difference between Sabe and Padme, just like everyone else.
Yeah. Well, they didn't... In this moment, they didn't show their face as well either. Yeah. So, like, they're very close and everything else. So, I get it, but she didn't want to look at her either.
And that was when... Who's the youngest one? Rabe?
Sashay is the youngest.
Sashay
stayed back at the palace.
And she ends up getting her period for the first time, which you don't get that in Star Wars books very much.
No. Well, and Padme, she had to sit out of some of the meeting stuff or whatever because of the same issue. Which they talked about it a couple times.
I just thought, like, if you're going to tell stories about female characters that are this young, then yeah, that's going to be a vital part of it.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it had a part in there.
And they made it a big part because while they're out at the party or the concert, like there's like a blood sensor.
Yeah, Panaka has a blood sensor. It's like, oh my God, there's blood in here. What's happening?
And they get in there. I like that his wife was like,
Sasha,
maybe think twice before putting a blood sensor in a teenage girl's room or something. So
now Sasha, am I right? Do I remember? Sasha is played by Sofia Coppola, I think, in the movie.
I'm not sure on that.
I think so. I might have to double check that, but she is Francis Ford Coppola's daughter. She was just getting ready to go into directing her first movie, and she wanted some on-set experience, and she thought, well, the best thing I could do was just kind of be like a background actor. So George was like, you want to be a handmaiden?
Gotcha.
So I think she plays one. But I can't remember if it was her that
she might have been, but I think Sasha was the youngest of the grouping. I think
so.
she was 12.
Yeah.
So it depends on I don't know if she played her or not for sure.
Sure. But yeah, Sofia Coppola, Sasha. I don't know how to say it.
Well, I mean, her name is Sasha, but then she went by Sasha.
Yeah, okay.
And then we had Rabe was like Robin,
Yeah.
Rabin.
Something like that, yeah.
Rabin.
Mm-hmm.
But we have some Harley stuff. There is the incident where because of glitter getting stuck on her face, she couldn't get her makeup done right, so Sabe had to be the queen, and then Padme had to like go do some other stuff and got caught by Harley.
Yep.
And since Harley could have been like, okay, there's handmaidens 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't see Sabe. Oh, here's a handmaiden. Hey, Sabe, and just assumed it was her.
Yeah.
There wasn't a reciprocating feeling gone back, and Sabe got angry about that. And the thing I liked about that was later on in the book, there is, the Trade Federation comes and everything, and there's issues with that. But there's a moment where Sabe says, like, I think it might be on the way back to Naboo, but it's like, whatever you need, I'm here. We can talk about whatever issues we have between us later, but I'm here for this. And I like that Padme, she respected it so much.
Me too.
That she was like, she's willing to do everything for the planet, even though we might have issues because I didn't even give her a heads up about what happened and stuff. So
now, in the previous Padme book, you kind of opened my eyes to the subtext that maybe Sabe has more feelings for Padme than previously let on. Do you think that
I didn't get that in this book?
You didn't get that at all in this book?
No.
Okay.
But
I was just wondering if maybe some of the like kind of feelings of jealousy in there were maybe could have been colored that way. I don't know.
It could have been possible, maybe.
But it didn't seem as overt as
I didn't
you
think
made
about
me realize it was last time.
Yeah. I didn't think about it that much in this book.
Yeah.
But also, like, I don't know, if this is like 2 months of them knowing each other before all this stuff happens, maybe that's part of it too. So, but yeah, the right now it's Harley, and in that one, I think Sabe was with someone else, and
she was with that dude,
and I don't remember his name, but
but yeah, in that specific scene with the concert and stuff was one where I was kind of thinking about it.
Yeah. I might have to re-listen to it and think about it that way, but I didn't initially when I was listening to it. But yeah, after that point there, we get about half to 2/3 through the book, I think.
Yeah.
And we get into the Trade Federation. After everyone leaves from all the delegates of the sector and stuff, the Trade Federation comes in and sets up a blockade, and Newt Gunray initiates a broadcast to say you need to sign a treaty. just right off the bat.
I know. He doesn't explain anything. He just says, treaty. He's like, what? Yeah. Treaty.
Treaty.
What treaty? I don't know. Someone said treaty. We should sign it.
Yeah. So they come in, and then for me, this is when a lot of things really started to like, I think, click with me a lot more when I started like, oh, now we're going into the Phantom Menace.
That's when you got really into it?
Yeah, okay, and now like I'm seeing like, okay, everything that's been set up for this, now I get more of the urgency with the food.
Okay.
We've seen the handmaidens kind of start practicing. They've had a few times of switching people, of having Sabe be the queen, and they haven't been that practiced with it. But I don't know. A lot of it started
honestly,
a lot more.
I got to be a little honest. Like I kind of was clicking with it when he started doing the recruitment of the handmaidens. I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. This is cool. And then once the Phantom Menace like started, I was almost like, oh, not yet. I'm not ready.
Oh yeah,
I want a little bit more first.
No. There was one of them where like, I think it was Erte, happened early on at some point.
Uh-huh.
And around then I was like, wait a minute, what's this one? And I was like trying to re-listen to it because I was like, okay, we're in the past, but I'm confused on when this is exactly. And then I started to kind of get, so like the first one where it was just Sabe, I didn't realize at first that we were having all these for each of the handmaidens and stuff either. But yeah, the let's see here. I don't know, getting into a lot of the issues that we have with the treaty and everything. I thought it was, I just wrote a big note with this because it stood out to me whenever it first happened.
Mm-hmm.
But they get the treaty message sent in, and they say something about, like, we've gone over it, and from our opinion, it is shack shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, what'd they say?
They said shack shit, yeah.
And I was like,
a shock, which is the big tick from episode 2 that Anakin rides. That's
like,
a shock.
Like, I was just surprised,
Shock
I guess,
shit.
because usually they use things like
Poodoo
and Slimo and I don't know, like there's other words, Dank Ferric, like that they've used that were like, okay, there's the Star Wars curse words. But this one just caught me off guard, and it was weird.
That one caught me off guard,
and I don't know that they've ever. I know like Han Solo has said hell.
Yeah.
I think in the movies they've used damn.
Hey, we know how close Marva Andor was to saying "fuck the Empire" in an official Star Wars TV show. Apparently, it was very close. Instead of "fight the Empire," it was going to be "fuck the Empire." To imagine the power of that statement, using that word in Star Wars like that, in this more adult-oriented world, you know. That would have been nuts.
Yeah.
Probably so nuts that it would take me out of it. But still, I just think it's interesting.
What if she was just like, dank the Empire?
Dank the Empire! Yeah, and they do say, I think they, Nexus is right. I think they say shit in Andor as well. But to be fair, this is a young adult novel.
Sure. Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. This for some reason caught me off guard. I don't know.
Shack shit.
Shack shit, yeah.
If anything, I was just happy that I recognized Shock.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I know what that shit is.
That's the thing that he was like riding on. Yeah, I remember that. And he falls off and like, oh no, he's dead.
And I can only remember their name because of Shock T.
Shock T. Okay.
Yep.
Let's see here. They give some information about why the queen is so important too. They talk about the only one who can sign a treaty is the queen.
Yeah.
And even if she dies, they're gonna have to hold a whole new election to vote for a new queen.
Mm-hmm.
So it really gives, like, during the episode 1, like, moments where it's like they can't kill her. They need her to sign a treaty. Like it gives more reasoning to a lot of that too.
They don't have like a vice queen, do they?
No.
Yeah.
They have the governor,
They do.
who is, they said, higher ranking than her, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like he follows her mostly as well.
Sure. Yeah.
When the blockade comes in, there was also a cut because we have that whole moment of like I think it would be fun, and I haven't gotten to do it yet, but I think it would be fun to kind of like listen to parts of this book and then pause it and then watch some of the episode 1 movie and then
do like
pause it and go back and forth a little bit.
Like a Siege of Mandalore, Revenge of the Sith supercut.
Kind of, because there's a moment here where they say that they call Newt Gunray and he has no idea of the ambassadors. Maybe we should call Palpatine and see if he has any information. Then the transmission doesn't go through.
Yep.
You know, like we get all these parts in episode 1, but they're from inside Padme's head or from a different perspective that we don't get initially.
Yeah.
So like you don't necessarily have the invasion kind of like moment exactly the same, but it's also there and built around it. And there's also a moment here where Jar Jar shows up.
Yes, there is.
And I was like, oh, cool. And we find out that he's been banished like within the last week. So he hasn't been banished very long. And that it was his idea to go to the surface because down in the water was scary and he didn't have any friends.
Yep. And Boss Nass was upset with him.
Yeah. So he's like, I'll wait a little bit and I'll go back down when maybe he's calmed down a little bit.
I think he broke Boss Nass's hay blibber. Something like that. I think it's a hay blibber. Clumsy.
Yeah, he says I boomed a gasser.
Yeah, boomed a gasser,
and then
knocked over Boss's hay blibber.
Knocked over the hay blibber and then
banished.
banished.
Yeah, like
it's not knocked over, but it's something like a hay blibber and a gasser is what he did. But I don't know what a gasser and a hay blibber is. You know?
Animals.
I don't.
They're animals.
Boomed a gasser.
Knocked him, boomed it. Boomed that gasser. Oh,
I thought it was fun that Jar Jar was like looking at all the ships and being like, "These ships suck."
Yeah,
Like they're just brown.
I know.
not very cool.
Right?
I don't know. It was just funny that he had like that.
Yeah,
kind of
I mean,
thought.
well, he lives in this sweet underwater city, and then the people that are on his same planet but are none to him have these great chrome and yellow badass hot rod ships and stuff, So
Yeah.
everything on his planet's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, their submarine is awesome.
Yeah.
right.
The bongo.
the city that they live in,
Uh-huh.
like, is just beautiful and stuff. Like, yeah. So
Yeah, just stay out
you
of
look
planet
at these,
core,
like,
you're good.
these just brown rectangles.
Yeah.
And these tanks that just run over everything, and I hate it. We also got Palpatine looking at the invasion. Like, it was interesting because
Yeah,
he's
we
talking
did.
about or thinking about like his home planet and wanting people to like never forget it or for it to be important or something like that.
Yep.
And he's like, now they won't. And
Yep.
he's like looking at all the circles around it. And I don't know. It's just him like admiring his work is what it felt like.
Yeah.
He also had a moment when he was talking about a statue. Do you remember that? Like, it was talking about like some
Yeah.
kind of statue, and he was like,
I believe it's a statue that's in his office
Is
in
it?
episode 2 or 3.
I tried to look up like pictures of his office
Yeah.
after they talked about it, be like, man, what's this thing look like? But I couldn't find it. But he was saying about like, it won't fit in my office now,
Yeah,
but there's one upstairs that will.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's like, well, I'll have to have much more room.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So I thought that was
Yeah.
and
I think, he takes it out of storage is what Nexus says.
yeah, because he doesn't have room in his current office. He stores it away and then brings it out of storage for that.
I think there's a novelization, or maybe it's a Legends thing, but there's a statue or a vase that Palpatine like hides his lightsaber in his office. I always thought it was really funny, just in case.
I'll find it if
Yeah.
I need it. Well, I
I
mean,
just imagine like Mace Windu one day being like, "What's this?"
I can't sense it. Can't sense it. As we've gone through the story and learned more about the handmaidens, the
Yep.
moment you talked about when you was like, "We are brave, Your Highness."
We are brave,
like,
Your Highness.
We learn that they have some different little words and things, and it's even just watching that movie, you get the idea that once you know, you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's like a."
Yeah.
We're brave. We can do this kind of moment, and you see it's Padme that's
Yep.
saying it. But for some reason, with this, like some of these lines meant more. There's a point when Bibble like sends his message, and it's like the death toll is catastrophic.
You must contact me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like there's that moment there. This book handles it as like there's not really a bad death toll, but a toll was a word that's not used very often in conversation, and it's a code word to try to
Yeah.
signal each other.
Yeah.
So once Obi-Wan does like, so no transmission, it's a trap.
Yeah.
And he leaves, and there's like, well, duh.
That's my favorite part. The handmaid's like, "Oh, we know. Who do
Yeah.
you think you are, from Jedi? Come on."
It's one of those things. It's that thing you were talking about where it's like in the movie you don't necessarily get
don't
these
get it,
moments with
yeah.
it, and you're like, oh man, good thing Obi-Wan told him because they wouldn't have known, you know. But they're all like, well, yeah, of course it's a trap. Like we understand what's going on, but do you know what?
Everyone's just like, "Yeah, you guys get tricked all the time. I never get tricked. Where's the queen? You're the queen, right?"
But the it was
Oh,
just
it's funny.
it's interesting to have these elements of the handmaidens talking about, even just being like, should we tell them? Should we tell them what that message really meant?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, now they know we're alive and we know they're alive, so it's there. But yeah, it was just there's a lot of fun moments like that that I like, just seeing those parts of episode 1 we don't get to see.
Yeah.
Including Padme, who we are with her whenever she's preparing to leave the ship, and they're trying to find the lamest clothes they can find to be able to dress her to go on to Tatooine.
Yeah.
It's like some conversations and stuff are fine where they're just kind of discussing what to do and what's going on and is it safe, and but the thing I really liked is there's a moment when she's preparing, the next day's the pod race, and she's goes and she talks to Shmi Skywalker while she's like fixing the little screen that she uses in the movie to watch Anakin race.
Yeah.
And it was just a really sweet scene. I really liked it. There was I don't know,
mean, they have very few moments together. To get another one was nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's moments where like Padme's talking about how her her planet is in danger. She's worried about everything. She's like, I can't focus on this planet, and these people. But there was something where she's like, my heart ached for Anakin and Shmi, and like she knew it always would, or something like that. And there was just like this really sweet moment, and even Shmi like just kind of trying to ease her mind. She gave up her own bedroom for this lady.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It was really cool scene. I like that one a
Shmi
lot.
has so little and still gives so much.
Yeah, and like we haven't had a lot of Shmi in Star Wars, I think, in general. At least not for me, you know.
Don't you wish you had heard more from Shmi?
Yeah, I guess so.
Just tune in for later, because maybe we will. A little tease for something to come later. Right? You want some more Shmi?
This is High Republic?
Shmi's me.
Shmi's me. Shmi's me.
We're going to hear some Shmi later.
While having all of episode 1 stuff, the one thing we don't get in episode 1 that we get a lot more in this one is we get to see what's happening on Naboo.
A
lot more.
Yeah, a lot more.
What did you think of like kind of getting that experience on Naboo and what
I loved it, and I simply just wanted more.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I love what I got, but I wish I got a lot more.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of guy, like, if I hear there's a 4-hour cut of Revenge of the Sith, I'm gonna be like, oh, I want to watch it.
I guess I'll watch it. So like as we've gone through the book, we've had meetings of Rabe was the one where they say that she's a criminal.
Yeah.
They also in that say that there's no prisons on Naboo. So like these camps, like they don't have prisons for, so they make these camps for it.
Yeah.
But they do mention that there's a moon that they send all their criminals to. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We met Yane as well, which was Su Yan, I believe. And her thing that Panaka talked to her about was her fabrics that she had. Mm-hmm. And she was like just a very good seamstress, basically, is what I got from it.
The moon of Naboo is where Captain Typho says that or maybe Palpatine's aide or something, they think that's where Padme's assassin's coming from in the beginning of episode 2. There's a moon of Naboo they talk about, like terrorists or activists on one of Naboo's moons, mining colonies or something.
Okay.
So that is in the movie, but like one line, barely. I think. I might be incorrect about that. If I say something wrong, someone will tell me.
But the Yane doing the seamstress stuff, Yane and Sashay were the only handmaids I believe left on Naboo, and they gave them the like I think it was what's Panaka's wife's name? Mariak, yeah. Gave them kind of the idea of build a way for us to communicate. They want to keep track of like the guards, how many people there are, like how we can communicate with each other, and they weaved it into fabric. And I thought that was kind of cool to like have this like cloth that like if you look at it, it was supposed to be like based on like a nursery rhyme or something like that, I believe. So you don't know what this is if you're a droid because you're programmed to just see what you're programmed for. But I like that they kind of brought in that, and like she helped with like the dresses and things like that too. But this was more of a like they all have different training and fighting that they learned in different aspects, and this was a creative way to try to like pass messages back and forth. But we had in that Sashay was found and had this fabric that they realized was some kind of message, but they didn't know what kind of message it was. Sashay played off of like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what you're talking about. And the scene of her being tortured, I don't think would have worked for me if it was in a book.
But because it's an audiobook and you can hear this poor girl screaming.
In the audiobook of this one, like it hit so hard where like
it did.
They're constantly we switch over to Yane and they have Sashay who started being tortured, and then we go to Yane's perspective. The whole time you're having like her perspective and the conversations, you just hear screaming in the audiobook in the background like the whole time. And then they talk about it taking a pause.
Yep.
And then it pauses it in the book for you. And then she starts screaming again, and then they start talking about how she starts again, and like it was just so effective in the audiobook that I think me reading it wouldn't have worked as well as this did.
I agree.
Like that was a moment for me where I'm like, geez, man. Like I was like painting my house. I mean, when
you think about,
oh man.
You think about Han Solo going towards the scan grid that Vader has him on Bespin, and it's getting closer and it's sparking. But it only feels horrible when you go outside the room and you just hear Harrison Ford screams. You know? If you just saw him I don't think it's as effective as if you leave that place and you just hear, ah, 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 And that's what I felt like.
Yeah.
With that.
It was a lot. But it was very effective, and they did a very good job with it. But yeah, it was tough. I I admire the handmaidens for they talk about like wanting to go and we're gonna go tell them, and they're like, no, we're not. Like she's screaming because she hasn't told them. We're not going to take that away from her.
Yeah.
You know, like if it's too much, she can make that decision, but I don't want to take it away from her. It was like we are bodyguards. She is being a bodyguard right now by not saying anything.
I know,
but she was like the youngest one and stuff too.
It's probably the most effective part of the book for me.
It was very effective. And then you meet like when they first met, when Panaka goes and finds her, and he's looking for Erte because she's like building these pods to like do like a space opera, and he's there looking for her. Yeah. And some little girl like trips him, and he starts talking to her, and she knows everything he's doing. Yep. Calls out everything that he's doing. It's like to the point that she even says like, "Oh, make sure you come back tonight. You can see her in action." It's like she's like a prop manager and stage. Like, what do they have to do during the actual show when they just design sets and stuff? And we have Erte, I think earlier on where Panaka goes and he's there, and this pod that's supposed to hold 4 people takes a 5th person on, and it crashes, and there's chaos, and people are getting injured and stuff. Yeah. And Panaka gets to see Erte in action there, but Sasha was interesting, and you're always really good with songs, and you usually remember them better. What song is it? What theme is it? And maybe it was a misuse, or I just remember it wrong, but it's the one that goes like doodle doom doodle doom.
In Star Wars?
Yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about at all?
Yeah, no, I think I know what you mean.
There's that song, and I'm like, that's not the Force theme, right?
Yeah,
like which one is it? Because it's played at the end of Sasha's moment, and I was trying to figure out what they were going for. Because there's times when she just seems to kind of have this intuition. Either she's like super observant, or just.
Are you thinking it's kind of like a Force echo sound?
I was just kind of wondering if it was meant to be related to that in some way. Because like.
So I know exactly what you mean. They do it sometimes when Ezra would do stuff in
it's
Rebels.
It's that same sound.
Okay, that's what you mean. That would drive me crazy. We hadn't nailed that down.
Yeah. Like they did a lot in Rebels. And I think that's why I thought of it that way too. But like Panaka's sitting there and looking around and being like, oh man, she was here, and she sits here and just watches people go by, and then she's like, wait a minute. She couldn't have reached me from here. She tripped me on purpose and then talked me into giving her a job that I wasn't going to give. Like, she rigged this whole thing. And he's like, she will fit in perfectly.
That's deception. That's what they need. Yeah.
And during that kind of moment, they had that music there, and I'm like...
That's interesting. I wonder... Because I know what you mean, but I wonder if your mind is trained to think of the Force, because that cue was used like that in Rebels, but it's not necessarily like that in the original John Williams
That might
score.
be what it is then, because like it was just one of those things. And I went to the Force. I'm like, why am I thinking of the Force?
No, I think that you're just such a Rebels fan.
That's probably true too.
Yep.
So, after the torture scenes and stuff too, like I love that they didn't take that away from her. But the next things that I really have that I thought was really good was when we start getting into the kind of the final bit of episode 1.
Yeah. I like the detail. I don't know if you're there yet or not, but I like Maul being like, okay, the Jedi are out there, but I just found a really cool fighting spot. I'm going to wait.
Yeah. Well, I kind of liked, because like he has come to this planet and he's like, okay, let me figure out what I'm going to do. Yeah. Let me plan ahead.
There's 2 of them. I gotta, this hangar is pretty cool, nice and open. I can do some cool spins. Gotta go that way. Catwalk, plasma refinery. Yeah, this is gonna be a good place to fight. Actually, they're out there if you want to go fight out that way. Like, I kind of like what I have.
Yeah.
I can stand right here when they come back. That's the needle drop when Duel of the Fates starts. It's gonna be perfect.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait behind this door right here. No,
my music.
I really like that moment. That moment was really good. Just to see him kind of start to plan it out.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention that one of the Sasha lines that I really liked was she was talking about she was thinking about the pain and everything she was feeling, the flames, I think it was, the burning. But the line that she had was that the burning hurt so much, but when the choice came between her friends and the flames, she picked her friends every time.
Every time.
And I was like, oh, man. And it was like, and then the fire burned on.
Yeah.
Like, oh, man.
Good stuff.
And then after she gets out of being tortured that same day, she's like, put me back out there. And it's like, what?
Yep.
It's like, no, put me back out there. They're going to look at me and I'll be a distraction. Put me back out there. I was like, oh, man. So she was just
Strong girls.
so strong.
Yep.
But no, and then we get into the last of the book, which I liked some of the not conversation, but some of the buildup of getting into all of that, the navigating of the Naboo sewers and stuff, and they get in and they try to recruit who they can from the camps and everything, get all the information. I think my favorite part of it, though, was the Boss Nass scene, where, and even talking about it afterwards, there's Sabe, who is the queen, and then Padme, who jumps in, and there's like an internal kind of dialogue between Padme about things, but then like later on when they actually talk, Sabe talks about how she feels that she has failed. She was supposed to be the one to protect the queen and not let her come out and be like, I'm Padme, I'm Amidala, but she felt that she failed talking to the Gungans and getting this to work out, and Padme just kind of consoled her and be like, no, that's not the case at all. Like, I made a decision in the moment, you did great, but in that rewatching it, I rewatched it last night, and I'm like, I don't get that she's sad or upset, but she's also in her stoic queen makeup.
She is.
So like to get like how she feels and how a lot of these handmaidens feel, like, this book did a really good job with a lot of that.
It did. I thought it paired really well with the last one, despite it being book 2, and it takes place before book 1. I really enjoyed them as a pair so far. Is there another?
I think there's a trilogy.
There's a third Padme book.
I'm pretty sure there's a third Padme book.
I'm super hyped for
I'm
that.
sure they'll tell us on there too. But the other thing, last thing I really had, because when I got to the end, like I was mowing when I listened to a lot of this stuff, so I didn't get to take my notes like I had been. The ending, I didn't quite get, because I was, so we go through, we free Naboo, we do all that stuff. Then we have like the prologue, and it talks about the girl in the white. And you said like we have 2 endings at the end of this book.
We do.
And we do, because we go from the end of episode 1 to the end of episode 4.
To the end of episode 4.
And we're talking about Princess Leia and all of her feelings, and like talking about like her parents and her planet being gone and all these things. Like, man, this is kind of heavy.
Where is she?
Why are we on this? What are we doing with this? And it wasn't until I listened to it again that I'm like, oh, because the very first thing we have in the book, which I had forgotten, was from Padme, and it was the girl in the white dress who was preparing to take leadership of Naboo. And then we come to her daughter, who is, being a leader later in the rebellion.
A leader of the heroes of the rebellion.
Yeah. And I thought that was a really cool like comparison between these two mother-daughter.
It took me a tiny bit off guard too, being like, wait, this is Leia.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah. So, no, I was caught off guard on that.
Okay.
Another note I had that I forgot to mention that I really liked was it was like an Anakin moment where they had the crash. Yeah. But the one I liked was like on a planet covered in sand with 2 suns, a little boy looked up and saw an angel. Yeah. And I was like, aw, that's kind of cute.
Yeah, it's cute. Yeah.
But no, there's a few moments that are kind of like weird that I was like, I'm trying to remember which one it was. There was one where I'm like, man, I don't know if I like that they did this, which was, when they're on the cruiser heading to Tatooine after R2-D2 has fixed their shield generators and they break through the blockade. Yeah. There was a moment that I thought was kind of weird that Padme was like, hey, R2, think I should make peace with the Gungans? And I was like, why is she asking this random robot? Like, that's kind of weird, but I guess she doesn't have anyone else to talk to right now.
It's like talking to your toaster, Aaron.
Yeah.
You can't tell anyone.
I never talk to my toaster.
You don't talk to your toaster?
No.
Please. Come on, quicker.
Toasted just right this time.
That's just me? Okay.
But I think it was also because she was looking at, like, Jar Jar there, and he was a little part of the book, but not too much. But there was enough of him in this that I understood what Padme was thinking later on, and like they seeded that there to be like later on, whenever we're like, oh, there's warriors, and Gungans are good, and it's not like we don't hate everybody. We can work together. And with what she did, we're wanting to bring the sector together. I also like that she felt bad that I brought together other planets in our sector, but I didn't bring the other race that lives on my planet to come to our little like meeting.
Yeah.
And I was like, given like what she didn't like about the past queen, like she makes some pretty good choices and wants to just unify. Yeah. And like I understand why she why they try to keep her as queen, why they make her their senator. Like being at 14, like Padme is a pretty smart, clever, and just fair individual, I think, as much as she can be.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially given that, like, in episode 3, we don't get much of her. Yeah.
Oh, no, I know. Not nearly enough.
No.
Nope. All right, well, that was a great discussion about the book. Shockingly, I don't know how. It's 4:30.
Oh, dang, it is, isn't it?
But we have more to talk about. We're not going to go too far because we're staying right here in the Phantom Menace. Is there anything else you want to say about the book before we moved on?
Not particularly.
I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the next one.
I think as we go through any more Phantom Menace talk, there may be things that kind of like overlap. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about this thing because I was trying to go through my notes real quick here. But no, I think this book improved Phantom Menace a lot for me, especially from the Handmaid's perspective and Padme's perspective.
Yeah.
Of just like what they're thinking, what they're feeling, why they're so stoic, why it's such an emergency to get back to Naboo. Like there's just things like that that. As a kid, I didn't necessarily think about, but like thinking about, I'm like, oh man, why are they in a hurry to get back and do war and try to make peace with the Gungans now?
Yeah,
it's like, oh, because their planet could be gone and everyone's gonna die. Yeah. So, but yeah.
All right. Okay, so we're gonna jump into the Phantom Menace. If we have time at the end, we'll try to take some questions. But if you can tailor them towards the Phantom Menace, that would be great. Yes. But I think the first thing, Gonk, that we should watch just to set the mood and get back into it is the newly released remastered trailer for the Phantom Menace. I think is what we're going to watch first.
Okay.
Now, this trailer, I don't know how many times you saw it, Aaron. Did you go and see it a bunch of times? Because I did.
Did I go see this a bunch of times? When did they release it?
This was in the year 98? Was it released?
This trailer was?
This trailer?
The remastered one or just the regular trailer?
I'm sorry. No, this is the trailer in general. The remaster is just, it's in way better quality.
I didn't go see it a lot. I don't know. Where do you go see it a lot?
People went to the movie theater, and I looked up a statistic where, like, certain theater people were saying, like, 75% of our audience are leaving after the trailer.
Really?
And going and sneaking into other movies to watch the trailer over and over again. I went and saw all of the prequel trailers in the movie theaters 2, 3, 4 times because we literally couldn't download them and watch them online.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I mean, episode 1 is a great time because it's that time where there is no more Star Wars.
Yep.
There's nothing, and then you see a trailer and you're like, oh, that's Star Wars and it's coming. I can't wait.
And I think a lot of people will agree. I mean, Rick, who I love him to death, but I can't stand to talk about Phantom Menace with him. But he also agrees one of the best trailers ever. So let's have a look and see what it feels like on this side of 25 years.
All right. I don't remember the last time I've watched this.
20th Century Fox. Just imagine having never seen this movie. What does this feel like? I like the choice of no narrator because this is a time that a lot of trailers had narrators. Like, you never saw anything like that in the first trilogy, like shots like that. I love the energy.
And then they just throw the music into it too.
So hyped.
They had that in the trailer.
Oh, they had it in the trailer, baby.
You refer to the prophecy of the one who will bring balance to the Force. You believe it's this boy?
He can see things before they happen.
He can help you.
The Force is unusually strong with him.
He was meant to help you.
Anakin! Tell him to take off!
Will I ever see you again? What does your heart feel?
Oh, man, I don't know. The trailer just gives me chills, man.
Our fate to a boy we hardly know.
Anakin Skywalker, meet Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I sense much fear in you.
Look at that puppet.
Yeah, the puppet.
The puppet.
It's been replaced now.
Fear is the path to the dark.
Dude, this trailer just blew the roof off the place when it would play.
Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
Ah! You know how many people went crazy in the theater when they first
double
saw that?
lightsaber.
love the drums at the end there. Boom.
It
boom,
didn't even say
boom,
Phantom Menace.
Boom, boom. Yeah, the first title was called The Beginning. Thank God.
Star Wars Episode 1, The Beginning.
Yep.
It said
I like the Phantom Menace better.
Star Wars Episode 1. That's all it said.
All right. That's a hell of a trailer.
No, it's great.
I think it's one of the best.
I don't remember when I would have first seen it. I know I had.
I love the music. I just love the ba-da, ba-da, dun 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 dun
Sure.
dun dun.
I love the
Dun.
you get to the point of it's slow.
Slow.
The saga.
Every saga has a
You
beginning.
know, it's going through all that.
Every story.
and
Yeah.
It's the opening crawl. Like,
It's literally the opening crawl smashing you in the face. Yeah, man. It's such a great, great trailer. And, you know, I mean, there's a reason that the anticipation of something, I mean, it can sweeten it. It can also kind of sour stuff. Like, because some people, they had 15 years to imagine what it could be like. And when you see someone's vision and it doesn't comport with yours,
sure,
that can just be a negative first effect. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like I was lucky that I was still young enough where I wasn't trying to make a movie in my head before I went and saw a movie. I definitely got into that when I watched the sequels, but I think everybody at a certain point in your age will start to like, okay, I've seen enough movies and stuff where I'm gonna try to guess what's gonna happen. Or,
Sure.
But there's some type of, I don't know. For me, the prequel trilogy is the essence of I wasn't even thinking of that. It was just go and let the storyteller do it. I chase that feeling, but I have to like actively tell myself to do that now. Whereas when I was a kid, it was just natural.
Sure.
And episode 1,
you sat and what
Yeah.
you saw is what you were enjoying,
Yep.
kind of thing, right?
episode 1 is just that for me.
No, I get
And I have
that.
so many fond memories.
I think Episode 1 might be my favorite. It
Yeah.
could be my nostalgia for it because
Yeah.
it's my first like Star Wars movie
Sure.
experience and stuff too. But like watching it more recently for the 25th and taking my kids to it, just from a kid perspective, which we've always talked about, like Star Wars was always been made for kids. Like there's definitely ones that aren't now. Andor is not necessarily. I wouldn't have like Ayla watch Andor probably.
Sure, I understand.
It just has more adult themes to it and stuff.
Yeah.
But in Star Wars Episode 1, like when watching with my kids, I feel like there's a lot to keep your attention. And if you're me being a kid I'm just a Star Wars fan for episodes 4, 5, and 6. That's all I have. And then I watch this and it's like, oh, we start off and we're in space and we get to see these battle droids. Oh, this is cool. Okay, and here's Jedi. And now the Jedi are being attacked. We're trying to break out. And then there's an invasion happening.
Yeah.
And then we're escaping from this planet. And then we go to Tatooine. And you're like, oh, we've been to Tatooine. You're like, oh, this is Anakin. Then you get into pod racing. You're like, oh, this pod racing is really... Like, I feel like there's so many things that just, as a kid, kept my attention going through all the way.
Because
like, I don't feel like there's a lot of, like... I know Rick talks about things being a little bit more of a lull at different points.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like when I watched it this last time in theaters that I was like, you know what? There is a lot of downtime in this. Because I was like, I've already seen this. I'm going to go get a refill for popcorn. And I'm like, when am I going to go get a refill for popcorn? I was trying to find what time I wanted to not be there. And it was tough for me to decide what time I didn't want to be there.
I get you. Yeah. Definitely. That's funny to think about.
Yeah.
No, I it's a movie that I cannot judge without bias and have no desire to. Like, I'm not the type of person that's like, you know, come to me for a film opinion. It's like, no, I only care about what I enjoy and what I don't, and I just enjoy these movies so much. I thought maybe we could talk about some, like, maybe lesser-known trivia stuff about Phantom Menace.
Okay.
But I also want to check out some Star Wars tone poems with you.
A tone poem?
A tone poem. A tone poem is a type of commercial that came out during Episode 1. And honestly, I kind of wish more things promoted stuff this way. It uses clips from the movies, but all of the audio is made specifically for these advertisements. So if you don't mind, I'd like to just get right into them before we get into some of the trivia.
Okay.
You want to do that?
Sure. Start
So Gonk, we're going to jump into the first tone poem. This one is called, I think it's called One Destiny.
One Destiny.
So let's see who's speaking.
It will be a hard life. One without reward, without remorse, without regret. A path will be placed before you. The choice is yours alone. Do what you think you cannot do. It will be a hard life, but you will find out who you are.
I love that. I mean, those are just Qui-Gon lines that we never heard. You know, I don't know if you've ever seen these tone poems before.
I think I remember some of them. I don't know if I've seen all of them. I feel like I remember one that had like Maul as like a voice.
We'll get to that one. I mean, the Qui-Gon one. I mean, I love the Qui-Gon one, but we get a lot of Qui-Gon.
Sure.
The Maul one's special because you got like double his lines.
Sure.
With his tone poem.
One of my things with episode 1 was like I feel like the main Jedi you really follow is Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
And I loved it because I was like, oh man, it's so cool to see Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan's master. I like this a lot.
Yeah.
And then when we lose him at the end, I felt it so much more, I think, too. So, especially having like, well, there's a connection to Obi-Wan we already had from the original trilogy, you know?
And we'll talk about it in another one, but the music at the end there especially just leads into, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, Anakin's theme does that. It is just like the end of the movie with the celebration theme. That's really the Sith theme. Anakin's theme is really just, you can tie it right over the Imperial March and it works, you know? So anyway, that was Qui-Gon's. I liked that it was about, like, he's almost trying to sell you the Jedi life. And he ain't doing it too well. Like, this is going to be very difficult. It's not very rewarding, but it might be the right thing to do. And you can find out who you are in being in the moment and being a Jedi like this. I just love that one. So that was One Destiny. Who do you think is speaking in the one called One Love?
Anakin.
Let's see.
Talking about an angel.
Don't look back.
Oh, Shmi.
Before you go, eyes forward. Choices to make. Dreams to realize. Don't look back before you go. Know the truth. Learn to let go. Don't look back before you go. Before you leave me.
Does that one make you emotional at all?
I don't remember that one really, but no, that one makes
me
very
a commercial. I'm sitting here like, oh, God,
sure.
You know?
Well, I mean, you have the connection for Shmi and the parent-kid relationship, but also the idea of like, let my kid go so that
Gonk, not yet.
They don't have to be a slave anymore.
Yeah,
you know.
I know.
I'm giving him his freedom, but that means it's a life without me.
Mm-hmm. And for a slave woman that literally has nothing to give up, the one thing that wants to be hers.
Well, and who
you know?
had nothing, and then all of a sudden just had something.
Yeah,
where did I don't know where he came from. You know. Like,
yeah. No, I love that one. It feels like something that Shmi Skywalker might write like in her personal diary, like when she goes back inside from letting her son leave. You know. And, like, how does she process that emotion? She might do it in poem. It's a pretty good one.
No, that's definitely a very good one. I like that one a lot.
All right. Well, let's keep it moving on. Who do you think is speaking with One Dream?
Padme. No, probably Anakin.
Let's find out.
Could be Maul. Yeah, he doesn't have dreams.
Luffy.
What if dreams came true and you could be who you wanted to be? You could do what you wanted to do, and you could help who you wanted to help. What if dreams came true, and the world opened up, and you were never, ever afraid? What if dreams came true? But dreams do come true, don't they?
Don't they? Doom, doom,
yeah.
Doom. The music makes that one real good too, because you get that like boom, boom.
You ever? I haven't prepared it, but did you ever watch the very, very, very end credits of the Phantom Menace? Did you stay for during your thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did, because there was also an Acolyte tease at the
Yeah,
end.
there was. Yeah.
I had to watch that.
But so
I
you
believe
would've-
they give you a Darth Vader, like,
Yeah. Well, Anakin's theme plays. It goes into the Darth Vader theme, and then the Imperial March and Vader's breathing comes in. Yeah.
Yep, they did that in the theaters.
Episode 2 has a fantastic commercial as well. That is just Vader breathing, and then it shows clips.
I remember that one. That was from episode 2.
Yeah, that one's fantastic too. But nothing beats the tone poems in terms of like marketing material that actually have like a meaning to it. You know?
I mean, episode 1, too, like, it was everywhere.
Yeah.
So, like, why not have 10 commercials for the for the movie as well, you know?
Yeah. I got 2 more. We're gonna try to get to them quickly. These 2 are my favorite.
Okay.
Both of these. So
Maul.
the next one is Will. One Will. I wonder who's speaking with one
Padme.
Will.
It's gotta be a Padme and a Maul.
There are things I cannot do. I cannot watch while people suffer. I cannot sit when something must be done. I cannot judge those who are different. There are things I cannot do. Run. Hide. Ignore. There are things I cannot do, but there are certainly things I will do.
What I will do.
Yeah.
That one, I think, hits me more after the book. Like, I like the idea of her, like, there's
I usually watch
things I can't do, and it's like I can't, stand by.
Yeah.
I can't, like, sacrifice others. Like, there's just those kind of ideas.
And specifically, she's saying in Amidala's voice, but at the end, it feels like Padme's coming through. Like there are certainly things I will do, and then like the slowness and the kind of like passiveness goes away, and she just bam, pulls that gun out of that throne, and shoots you.
Yeah. Dang, which I didn't talk about. They have a part in the book too talking about the addition of that, which was put in during Amidala's time. Because Panaka wanted to have defense if they were going to be meeting other delegates from other planets. Sure. Yeah. So I was like, okay, that's cool. But they made it so that only she can open it, and that there'd be 2 guns inside. I was like, okay.
But anyway, one Will. That's one of my favorites. I love the turn on that one. But this one is my favorite. You know why?
Jar Jar.
No.
3PO.
No. Though Jar Jar kind of has one, but not really. It's not him speaking, and I can't even find a copy of it that's like recorded correctly.
Really?
Like, no one cared about that one.
Should have had R2 do one.
Yeah. But this one is called One Truth.
One Truth. Okay.
Yeah. And let's get right into it.
Fear attracts the fearful, the strong, the weak, the innocent, the corrupt. Fear is my ally.
Back another little clip there at the end.
Yeah, though I love the cut of him spinning the saber and then it wipes with
the
that
black,
so much.
yeah.
I wouldn't even put that last one there.
I like how they show different people during the strong, the weak, the corrupt,
innocent,
yeah,
the corrupt.
Like
we get so little Peter Serafinowicz, Darth Maul. I mean, with this tone poem, you literally double the amount of words that he had.
Yeah, was he?
He only had 2 lines.
We will have our revenge,
At
right?
last we reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge. And then also, if the trace was correct, I will find them quickly, Master. But I mean, that Sam Witwer listened to those 2 lines and this when he was trying to figure out how he's going to find
what's Maul going to
how
sound
he's going
like.
to get, because we know how obsessive he is. I bet you he listened to that tone poem a million times. Fear. And then, his Maul gets a little more excitable. Fear attracts the fearful, So I just like to think that this was a building block that he made to bring up his Maul. But,
sure, yeah.
But also, I do mourn that Peter Serafinowicz talks about, like, I recorded hours of dialogue for Maul. And you never see it.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder what all they cut.
I don't know. And then apparently he also recorded for Solo as well, and they ended up not using him, which I get, but also I'm kind of bummed too.
Yeah.
Because me, I love Sam, but there's, it's a legacy casting with Peter being Maul, and my favorite tone poem. So, yeah.
No, I mean that's really good. I love it. I think my favorite thing is like what it's showing during.
Yeah.
Is just real good.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yep.
all right. You said that you had some like things you didn't know about episode 1.
Well, I mean, they're really kind of just more behind the scenes factoids and stuff that I found interesting. We all kind of know, mythologies and histories and stuff like that. But I mean, we were just speaking of, Jake Lloyd said this one time. According to Jake Lloyd, there was a 6-hour cut of the film that was screened for several people before the film was released.
Dang.
And those who saw it proclaimed it to be, quote, mind-bogglingly good, unquote. Like the later lost cut of Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, this cut has never been released publicly.
See, Topher Grace doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. He's going the wrong way.
He's going the wrong way. I mean, what would the 6-hour cut be?
I don't know.
I mean, we watched the Snyder Cut. That was one movie.
Right?
Like, I'll watch it, but
I don't know. I mean, do you expand on like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan beforehand?
Yeah.
Like you don't have to start there. You could start before it a little bit more.
Does
maybe,
Maul have more lines?
Yeah, maybe elements of this book are in there where you get more of Padme or Queen Amidala beforehand, but you don't want to ruin the twist ending or anything either. So I don't know. I'd be curious to see, but we probably never will.
No, we probably never will.
More pod racing? Maybe there could be more pod racing.
Well, in the novelization, there are a couple extra scenes, and one of them is the previous pod race of Anakin's that he and Kickster talk about.
They crashed. The one that was in the book here.
So, at the very least, that was in the novelization. But I'm pretty sure that Lucas and the author of that novelization kind of had a phone call and like created those scenes more. I don't know if it was something that was. It could have been from a script and that was cut. I'm not really sure. That has happened before.
I know in some of the deleted scenes, because I was watching them on Disney Plus the other day. There's the one with the probe droid that finds Anakin and Qui-Gon in like
Mos Espa.
Yeah, in Mos Espa.
Qui-Gon like cuts it down, right?
Yeah. Like there's that there, which kind of leads a little bit more as to why they're running.
Yeah.
There is
why Maul is all pissed off.
Yeah. when they get the bongo to Theed, there was like a waterfall that they were trying to survive. So like there's that scene.
Shoot like a hook or something off to the side and go on the water, right? Something like that. I remember that.
Yeah. I think there was also a scene that was on there for Bale and Tilly's.
Was there?
Where like he was in a deleted scene where they showed him.
You're right. Okay, yeah, it's not Jimmy Smits.
Yeah, not Bail
Organa.
But
yeah, it's
Bale
and Tilly's. Yeah, he's like a blonde actor, I think. Yeah, I've seen that before.
So like there's some more stuff in that as well that they cut out, and those were all filmed. Let alone the things that weren't filmed. Or well, I guess if it was a 6-hour cut, they must have all been filmed. So I don't know.
Oh, and hey, shout out to Never Lose Your Nerd who gave us a super chat, $2. Love seeing The Phantom Menace in theaters again.
Oh, me too.
And I didn't get to go do it, but I was happy to hear so many people having a great experience with it.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
I hope next year. I think next year's the 20th anniversary of Episode 3.
Yeah.
I'd love to go see that in theaters again.
Yeah.
Though the ones that I want to see, like those are the two I've seen. I haven't seen Episode 2, 4, 5, or 6 in theaters ever, and I want to see those at some point.
Some of the fun facts that these are specifically about Liam Neeson, who was a huge Star Wars fan, but kind of like many people, including Sam Jackson and even Ian McDiarmid, arrived on the set not really knowing much about what they were going to be doing. Liam Neeson was so eager to be in this film that, and this is confirmed by his agency, he signed on without ever reading a single script.
Really?
He was just like, "What do you want me to do?" It's like, "Be the Jedi Master." He's like, Done. I will do that. And apparently, Sam Jackson did the same thing. He got to set, and they're like, "So who are you? You're gonna be a Jedi Master, like what Jedi? Like the best one? The best? Well, no, next to Yoda. And I could just sit next to Yoda." So that happened, and even Ian McDiarmid had no idea he was coming on and playing a senator.
Really?
Yeah, he didn't really know that. I mean, how familiar he's going to be with the character that he played how many years ago.
Sure. That makes sense, I guess.
I also love, just by the nature of casting Liam Neeson, sets were built only as high as the tops of actors' heads, and then computer graphics would fill, the rest. It's a good trick. Yeah, that way you're not wasting materials. But Liam Neeson is so tall that he costs the set crew, an extra $150,000 in construction.
And having to go taller?
Just for him because he's so much taller.
That's funny.
Another super chat from Free Metroid Hat, $10. Thank you so much. Says, what is more fun to watch, the pod race or Duel of the Fates?
I'm going to say the pod race.
That's more fun.
Mainly because it's like uncut.
Yeah.
Interesting. There's a lot of elements of Duel of the Fates that I love, but
you have to go back.
You're back and forth so much. Whereas I feel like the race starts and we're there and we're watching the race. You may cut to like these people watching the race or these people up ahead of the race further.
Yeah.
But you're always like there in the race.
Sure.
And I really enjoy that and watching it. Like the audio and everything is so good, especially in theaters. I love Duel of the Fates. I think it's one of my favorite lightsaber fights. Just Darth Maul, Ray Park is really good, but it's, I don't know. I think the, what is it? Episode 3, Battle
of the Heroes.
Of the Heroes, yeah. I want to say Brothers. I'm like, that's not right. I think that one I probably like more just because there's also more fighting in general with it too. You just get to see more things. But the downfall with that one is it also cuts away to an entirely different fight.
Yep.
That I almost wish you could have just been like, I watch this fight, now I watch this fight.
Have we ranked our favorite lightsabers yet?
I don't know if we have. Like fights, I don't know. Because like in episode 2, like when you're fighting Dooku, like you're pretty much just there fighting Dooku almost the whole time.
We might need a Badonkagonk that like has no book.
Just about lightsaber fights and stuff?
We're going to talk a lot about that one. For me, it's Duel of the Fates just because, I mean, I love the pod race, but I didn't pause the pod race frame by frame to jot down and try to replicate every move like I did.
Well, you can't replicate a pod racer.
I know. So I like the other one more.
Because of real life instances of it?
Just because I was so obsessed with lightsaber fighting that like like the pod race is fun, but I needed to watch the lightsaber fight. Lightsaber fight was the only reason I put the VHS in half the time. You know, just that's why I love so much. So just sheer honesty, it's Duel of the Fates over the pod race. But as you know,
have you ever driven a zero-turn lawnmower?
I have, yes. Zero-turn lawnmower, sure. Like a Bobcat.
They're like a pod racer.
No, trust me. The Bobcat on our farm was my pod racer to play in. But that's just, you know.
Sure.
The problem is you're asking me to rank things I shouldn't compare. This is a fun one here. Ian McGregor once stated that before filming began, he and Liam Neeson, and you might know about this, but I never really thought about it in these terms, were taken into a private room where 2 Lucasfilm employees approached them with a long, locked wooden box. When opened, they saw 20 various lightsaber hilts that they were allowed to choose to be their character's official weapon for the movie. Ewan then went on to explain that George Lucas only wanted to allow them in a rushed 10 minutes to decide on which design they wanted because George believed the actors should connect with their hilts through feeling and not through study. That, like, I've always seen.
I didn't know that last part.
I've always seen the clip of them bring out the lightsabers and pick what you want, one you want, and I always thought that's an interesting choice. Like, to give an actor the creative control of what a character's weapon should look like. That doesn't happen. Like, they didn't go up to Viggo Mortensen and said, like, which one of these swords would you like the most? They're like, no, Andrew, the Flame of the West, that's yours. That's the one you have.
Sure.
You know? Like,
but I feel like in that sense, like doing lightsaber fights, like there's. Like yours, like if we had like here's 10 lightsaber hilts.
Yeah.
Which one you want to use? You're gonna go over. You're gonna look at them.
Yeah.
You're gonna grab them. That doesn't feel right.
I know.
You're gonna grab that one. Ooh, I like that one.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that one. Dang, which one?
Right.
You know, like you're gonna narrow it down. I think based on just how it holds in your hand and what it looks like in general. But that makes sense. I think.
I love the choice of like this isn't a. It's not like think about it and come back tomorrow. It's a. In the moment, use your instinct. What do you feel is your lightsaber? It's such a Kyber crystal moment.
Well, yeah, it's making your saber. You know, like how many Jedi have their own unique saber that's geared towards them in what way?
Yeah.
You get to pick it. That's kind of cool.
I just thought that was really inspired. I mean, I know not a lot of people love like Qui-Gon's lightsaber design, you know, but I love the idea that Liam Neeson loves that design, and that informs the character.
Or at least out of the 20 that were there.
Of course, yeah, sure.
Right?
At least out of those ones.
Like, I would never pick Revan's saber.
Though it is... never. I know. I don't like the look, anything about
Any of it.
But I do like that fact coupled with when you see the behind the scenes thing and Ewan McGregor's like, wow. This is the one I've been using in like training. So he just picks the one that he just knows. That's Ewan McGregor's choice. I think that's so funny.
It's comfort.
Yeah, it kind of goes over George's like feeling of like, no, pay attention to each one. It's almost like an avatar test. When they're trying to test the next avatar, what are your previous possessions? Ewan McGregor's like, I've been playing with this one. This one's mine.
That's funny.
So that one was really cool.
There was a thing,
yeah,
and actually, Joe bringing up Ahmed Best had an interview, and I had seen it, and one thing I learned from it was that Qui-Gon had a fake mustache that I never really noticed.
He did. I didn't know that.
I never realized it in the thing, but he was talking about when he was in the submarine with Ewan and Liam, and he had the boom de gasser, and then crashing the hay blibber, then banished.
Yeah,
and he had that thing.
That's right.
And it's such a weird line and nonsensical words because I don't know what a hay blibber is or a gasser. But he said that they would crack up so much, and Liam, he just started doing it crazier and crazier to try to make them laugh that his mustache fell off.
It fell off.
And I just thought that was funny. And then I was like, man, I didn't know he had a fake mustache. I never noticed that.
No, there's a couple behind-the-scenes shots and stuff where you can see Liam Neeson with no mustache, and like he has like an umbrella hat on. It's really funny. This is an interesting one. Liam Neeson convinced George Lucas to keep a scene where Qui-Gon puts his hand on Shmi Skywalker's shoulder, which we did just see in one of the tone poems. Lucas felt this might be out of character for the monk-like Jedi, but Neeson thought there should be an emotional connection between these two characters. In an interview with Premiere Magazine, Neeson defended his action, saying, "It may be Star Wars, but we've got to have something in there for the adults." Which I thought was an interesting point, talking about like showing he showed like a form of affection, right? And we don't really see Qui-Gon do that much. Qui-Gon is that quintessential Jedi, but I don't think you'd ever really describe him as necessarily warm in that movie.
No.
Would you?
No. In fact, there was a scene that I watched where he kind of gets on Qui-Gon a little bit, and it's like a little harsh, but like he doesn't yell at him. Yeah. But there's never really a time too that I really feel like he's necessarily warm and caring, you know?
It's just interesting to think like, you know, what a Jedi should be, and I always think of Qui-Gon Jinn first, but just by his actions, not necessarily his personality even, which I think makes him a much better character in my heart, in my brain.
In your opinion?
Yeah, in my opinion. More in my heart. It's Star Wars.
Yeah. No, I think Qui-Gon has been one of my favorites because of the way he acts, the way he focuses on the living force, just you know, things like that. He's always been one of my favorites.
You know how there was that one time when I saw that Chewie got hurt and it changed the way I watch Return of the Jedi all the time? In the script for The Phantom Menace, it explains that the reason Watto is flying is that he's crippled. If you look closely, you can see that one foot is longer than the other, and he talks out the side of his mouth because of his broken tusk. But you never, you always see him flying because he can't walk.
He doesn't fly in episode 2.
Yeah, but he just sits there.
But he doesn't walk either.
Yeah. I just never thought of that. We've seen other
have we seen Toydarians walk
in
usually?
the Clone Wars?
Yeah,
you know,
I
the
suppose.
king and
I always
the
see them
guards
flying.
and stuff. They fly,
like, right?
but they will walk around too. But I never really thought about the idea that Watto himself has a deformity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I
often think about one leg being lower than the other, and the other one kind of being up here and scratching and stuff, you know. But that is never part of the design. I mean, I've noticed the broken tusk and how he'll talk outside of that, you know. But just thought it was an interesting thing. I never really noticed.
Huh. That's cool.
All right.
They walk now?
How would this be, Aaron? According to Ahmed Best, in a Rolling Stone article, Michael Jackson campaigned for the role of... Who do you think I'm going to say next?
Well, I assume with Ahmed Best,
Jar Jar Binks. But George Lucas decided against casting him because the star status would compromise the film. At one point, Lucas took Best and Natalie Portman backstage at a concert and introduced Best to Jackson to gain the singer's approval.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Could you imagine Michael Jackson being Jar Jar Binks?
I'm just trying to picture the voice, like what the voice would be like.
Well, he would do hee-hee a lot, probably. Right?
Yeah?
I think so. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, just okay.
Squeeze me. Hee hee.
Squeeze me. Man, yeah, I don't know. That feels so weird. It'd have been interesting, I guess. But it's one of those things where it's like I can't picture this movie without this that I got.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know what the other alternative looks like,
Yeah. There's one here about Terrence Stamp, who plays Chancellor Valorum, who we mentioned earlier in the show. Terrence Stamp disliked working on this film. He clarified that he had been looking forward to a scene with Natalie Portman, but was dismayed to find out that Portman would not be on the set that day. He was asked to act towards a piece of paper taped to the wall instead, which he described as very boring.
Huh.
He declined to reprise his role in the sequels, saying that actors prefer to work with actors. Also, when he complained to a producer about how little he was being paid, he was told he would get a present from George Lucas. The present turned out to be a cheap Star Wars children's stencil set.
What? That's what you get? No way. Really?
I don't know how much of that is necessarily true, but I do like thinking that what would Valorum's role have been in the next movies?
Yeah. We saw him in the Clone Wars.
We did see him in the Clone Wars.
Where he was like
briefly.
kind of retired and stuff.
Yeah.
But like Valorum doesn't have like what's he have one scene in episode 1?
2, but yeah, pretty much. I mean, he barely speaks in the Senate.
Yeah.
Scene, but
he's in the Senate, he gets whispered to and he sits down whenever
Yep.
Amidala's like, no confidence. And it's like he just goes like,
I think when you're an actor of a certain caliber and you're being told that you were casting a Star Wars movie, you're like, oh, I'm going to be like Han and Leia and Luke. Not I'm going to be like TK421. You know?
yeah, he didn't even get any lines.
Yeah. But hey, you got an action figure. I got a Valorum action figure over there somewhere.
Yeah.
But no, I just was interested. Like, what would his role be in the sequels, movies? You know, like you can't cut this out, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But also
maybe he had a bigger part in the 6-hour one.
But I've also slightly enjoyed some pettiness I've heard about George Lucas sometimes too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I revere the man, but no one's perfect. But in hearing a lot of his petty behavior, it endears me to him sometimes because I think pettiness is like an innate feature I have. I have to hold it back a lot, you know? So when I see other people doing it, I'm just like, there's a little Sith in all of us, and that's mine. Yep. Well, we're really over.
We are over, yeah.
I don't have really any more that I think are going to be as fun as those ones. So
okay.
Between the tone poems, the trailer, some little fun things, that was our look back at the Phantom Menace 25 years from when it came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, hopefully at some point it would be fun, I think, to do some kind of like maybe debate with Rick a little bit or something, talking about Phantom Menace and things that are liked, things that are disliked. We didn't get any questions, but hopefully if we get into a debate aspect of it, we can get into some questions.
Do we have like one question we could do?
I don't know. Gonk, is there one? Are you okay with one question,
We could
Gonk?
do like just
It'll only be
one.
another half hour of talking.
No, it won't.
Let's just see what we have with different questions and stuff that we have available.
Okay, well, I don't see anything, so we might not have anything. Gonk?
Right.
Oh, right there? Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
I'm like,
I can't read those.
I don't know what you're looking. I'm reading them right now. What do you mean?
Gotcha. All right, I didn't see that chat chain. My bad.
And then there's those over there.
My name is Matt. Could Palpatine still have succeeded in his plan if the Jedi never found Anakin? I mean, that's the Phantom Menace adjacent. I think the answer is yes. I think that he would have. I mean, the answer is, regardless of Anakin or not, it's still the result of 1,000 years of Sith planning and patience.
Do you think he still beats like Mace Windu and stuff? Or do you? I mean, everything's changed. Clone Wars are different. You know, like so many things could have altered and been entire. Amidala Padme could have been killed, right? Like they kind of get summoned over. Where would Qui or Obi-Wan have been? Like I don't know. I assume yes, because the whole what if scenario would have changed so drastically.
The Jedi, at the very least, would still have been defeated and crushed, despite maybe a Jedi like kills Palpatine. Let's say
he probably would have had Dooku more. You know?
Yeah, he probably would have.
More than likely, I would assume. Though maybe not, because maybe the whole situation with the Sith of Darth Maul wouldn't have happened like it did with Tatooine and trying to, I don't know.
Sure.
Like
No,
it depends what the
you mean.
what if situation is.
Yeah.
Is the what if they don't land on Tatooine and they
Yeah.
land somewhere else and you have a similar situation going on?
Yeah.
Does Qui-Gon still get killed? If so, does that still turn Dooku over? Because that's another thing too that I didn't really get to say too much was that this book, and I think like the Count Dooku Tales of the Jedi, changed elements of episode 1 for me a little bit because I can't help but think about some of those during elements of watching this movie.
That's why the expanded universe / just extra material is so vital or fun for me. Is it does change things, and that's always fun. I can think about Star Wars in so many ways, but I love that I can think about, oh, this is what I thought about this moment before, and this is what I thought about this moment after, and neither of those are invalid feelings, but they can be different. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, even in the what if scenario, and if you just pick different points, because I was like, okay, well, what if just Anakin wasn't there in episode 3?
Yeah.
And I'm like, everything else was the same somehow. And I'm like, well, I don't know. You still send someone for Grievous. Does Anakin not stop Mace Windu? Does Palpatine beat Mace Windu? Was he planning that ahead of time to be like, I need Anakin to make this final push to be my apprentice?
Yeah.
You know, like that feels like it was his final push there. So maybe if he didn't need that, maybe he just kills Mace Windu. Maybe he could have done that. I don't know. So, but I would say as much as he's ahead of the game, and in this book that we saw him like setting up tax bills and stuff that he's voting against or whatever, just to make sure he's seeding in the things he wants. Like, yes, I say he does.
Yeah. Well, in the immortal words of Chirrut Imwe, all is as the Force wills it, and what ifs don't really matter as much as what happened.
No, very true. We have one more, I think, super chat from YouTube from Randall Sprinkle.
Randall.
It says, just want to say thanks for all your work, guys.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Randall.
Thank you guys for the support.
Yes, we appreciate it. And if you guys enjoyed this, if you would like to see like a debate for episode 1, let us know, whether it's through social media or in the comments on YouTube or whatever. And maybe we can try to make that happen at some point.
Yeah.
I'd also just like to watch through episode 1 with you guys and just like commentate and talk about it at some point again, just because
I'll be watching this movie for the rest of my life, not just 25 years after its release.
Yeah, right. So
we'll see you for the 50th anniversary.
Yeah, 50th would be great. 30th coming up. We have another book we'll be doing for next month. Next month's Badonkagonk will be
The Rising Storm.
Yes, Rising Storm, the High Republic. On June 20th will be the next Badonkagonk.
Make sure you're on the lookout right here on the channel for our High Republic comic videos that are going to be coming out, and The Acolyte, which is also coming out in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yes, a lot of Star Wars to come. Very excited for that. So, and there'll be more comic book stuff, which I'm excited for as well. That'll all be good.
Yep.
All right.
Absolutely.
Guys, we hope you have a good rest of your weekend. Goodbye.
We're going to be here before we know it, August 2nd through the 4th. It is Blind Wave University is the theme this time, and we are hosting it at Marietta College. Remember, tickets are limited and on sale now. Head over to blindwave.com/wavecon to buy your tickets today and enroll in Blind Wave University. Class dismissed.